Chapter 1991, Spatial Superposition. Chapter 1991, Spatial Superposition. The wings behind Su Zimo flapped and he transformed into a golden streak of light, entering the radius of the jade talisman's glow in the blink of an eye. The otherworldly soldiers that were chasing seemed to have sensed something and were extremely wary of the light emitted by the jade talisman. They stopped in their tracks and dispersed. The jade talisman was right in front of him. Up till now, Su Zimo did not know what secrets the jade talisman held. However, for the three immortal kingdoms, for immortal sects and countless sects and factions of the divine firmament mainland to flock to it, this jade talisman was definitely not simple. Without hesitation, Su Zimo rose into the air swiftly and grabbed the jade talisman high above. As long as he could get his hands on the jade talisman, it would mean that he had the advantage. Be it to fight or retreat, he could seize the initiative. Furthermore, he no longer had to fear the otherworldly soldiers with the jade talisman in his hands. Su Zimo was extremely fast and extended his palm. Just as he was about to grab the jade talisman, an extremely cold and murderous aura burst forth from behind him. A sword beam tore through the air at an astonishing speed and slashed toward Su Zimo's outstretched arm. That killing intent was way too terrifying. In that instant, Su Zimo felt as though he had fallen into an ice cellar and his limbs went cold. If not for the fact that he was the Green Lotus true body and his blood chi was strong, that killing intent would have frozen his bloodline. The killing intent was so strong that even the heaven and earth slaying sword arts he cultivated could not compare to it. Could it be? A thought flashed through Su Zimo's mind. Now that he was faced with a strong enemy and the situation was critical, he did not dare to be distracted or think too much. That sword chi was truly stunning. It was sharp, as though it could sever everything in the world, penetrate the void and destroy everything. Although the Green Lotus true body could take on a connate black-grade dermic treasure head-on, he could not defend against that sword strike. Su Zimo could almost predict that if he continued to reach for the jade talisman, his entire palm would be severed by the sword chi before he could even touch it. It's Yunting. Without turning back, Su Zimo already guessed who attacked. Yunting was the only one who could release such a terrifying sword chi. Su Zimo released the true dragon 9 flashes and crossed the obstruction of the otherworldly soldiers first, but Yunting was not weak either. Disregarding the consumption of essence chi, he released Void Crossing Sword continuously to break free from the entanglement of the otherworldly general and charged over right after. Yunting was bent on getting his hands on the jade talisman and he would not allow anyone to lay their hands on it. Therefore, he did not hold back at all when he stopped Su Zimo this time round and released his human-slaying sword chi. Prior to this, although Yunting released sword chi that was sharp and could slice through metal and jade, those were only the most ordinary sword chi he had cultivated. The human-slaying sword chi was much more terrifying than that. Su Zimo's expression was calm and his eyes were unmoved. He had experienced too many situations like this and it was nothing much. He retracted his palm and his figure flashed, disappearing from the spot. At the level 9 Black Essence realm, Su Zimo could already release the true dragon flash 3 times in a short period of time. This was his second flash. When Su Zimo reappeared, he was already behind Yunting. Without hesitation, Su Zimo raised his palm and slapped the top of Yunting's head. This time round, Su Zimo did not hold back either and released the Great Chaos Essence palm. Her fair and tender palm expanded instantly, as though it had transformed into a gigantic millstone, suppressing Yunting. Its aura was shocking and it was so strong that the air exploded with a loud bang. Not only did he avoid Yunting's sword chi, he even reversed the situation and counterattacked. This change was extremely sudden. Su Zimo descended behind Yunting without any warning and the latter had no time to react. He did not even have time to turn around, let alone escape. Good timing. Instead of panicking, Yunting hollered and his blood chi surged in rage. Suddenly, Yunting's black hair stood on end and shot into the skies like countless swords, emitting an extremely sharp aura. Amazing. When he saw that, Su Zimo praised from the depths of his heart. Although Yunting was not old, his cultivation in the Tao of the sword was way too deep. He had already fused the sword Tao into every part of his body and had even cultivated it to the tip of his hair. Even his hair was a killing weapon that was extremely sharp, even divine weapons and dermic treasures could not compare to it. Yunting's long hair stood on end, resembling countless flying swords. Boom! The great chaos essence palm descended and collided with Yunting's long hair with a loud bang. Although the hair looked soft, its sharpness was terrifying and wanted to pierce the gigantic millstone above his head. Creak! Creak! The millstone crushed and spun, colliding against Yunting's long hair with an ear-piercing sound. Clang! Clang! A part of Yunting's black hair snapped and the sound of a bowstring snapping could be heard. At the same time, Su Zimo felt a sharp pain in his palm. His long hair was like a sword and destroyed the great chaos essence palm. Even Su Zimo was stunned by Yunting's move. Yunting's long hair snapped and the great chaos essence palm dissipated at the same time. Su Zimo did not continue fighting and his figure flashed once more. The third flash. This time round, when Su Zimo reappeared, he was already beside the Jade Talisman. The Jade Talisman was within reach. Given the methods displayed by Yunting, it would be difficult to secure victory within a short period of time. Yunting was truly the most troublesome and powerful opponent he had encountered since he ascended to the upper world. If he continued fighting, it would be easy for other changes to happen when Feng Xian and the others caught up. At that thought, Su Zimo made a prompt decision to retreat and get his hands on the Jade Talisman first. Don't even think about getting your hands on the Jade Talisman with me around. The moment Su Zimo reached out, Yunting's voice sounded in his ears. Su Zimo ignored Yunting's threat. No matter how fast the latter was, he could not compare to the true Dragon 9 flashes. Su Zimo reached out and his expression changed slightly. He missed. The Jade Talisman was right in front of him but his grab missed. The Jade Talisman was still there motionlessly but Su Zimo did not manage to grab it. It was as though there was a layer of space between his palm and the Jade Talisman. Spatial superposition? Su Zimo frowned. Although spatial superposition was only a lesser divine power, it was extremely mysterious and difficult to comprehend. Space and time divine powers were extremely difficult to comprehend. Once comprehended and released, they would indeed be extremely powerful and shocking. Time-related divine powers such as time like a saber had always been one of Su Zimo's strongest killing moves. Although the spatial superposition released by Yunting earlier on was not lethal, it created a layer of space between Su Zimo and the Jade Talisman, causing his grab to miss. With that single move, Yunting had already arrived opposite Su Zimo. The Jade Talisman was right in front of them. However, if Su Zimo wanted to get his hands on the Jade Talisman, he would have to get through Yunting. It was the same for Yunting. Chapter 1992, Fight. Chapter 1992, Fight. This person is very strong. Su Zimo looked at Yunting who was not far away and murmured internally. After ascending to the upper world, apart from Tang Zi, Yunting was the only one who could make him release the true Dragon 9 flashes thrice in succession without any success. Furthermore, Su Zimo had a feeling that even if he could release a fourth flash, he would not be able to suppress this person. This was an extremely strong opponent that could even threaten him. Ever since he started cultivating, there were not many cultivators who could make him feel threatened. In Tianhuang mainland, there were only a few people. More importantly, there was a special connection between him and this Prince Yunting. Previously, when Yunting released that terrifying sword chi, a guess flashed through his mind. However, the situation was critical and he could not divert his attention to think about it. Now, Su Zimo was even more certain of his guess as he looked at Yunting who was emitting a sharp aura. Seems like you've guessed it. Yunting chuckled. Su Zimo asked, human-slaying sword art? There was a high chance that only the human-slaying sword art could possess such a terrifying killing intent that was even stronger than the heaven and earth-slaying sword arts. That's right. Yunting did not hide anything and said frankly, I cultivated the human-slaying sword art while you cultivated the heaven-slaying sword art. There have long been rumors that the heaven and earth-slaying sword arts were left behind in the lower worlds. To think that the person who cultivated the heaven-slaying sword art would ascend to the upper world and even bump into me. This is the will of the heavens. This is an opportunity. Yunting was in high spirits and his words revealed immense confidence. The three great sword arts have been separated for many years. Even the heavens want to fuse them into one again. The heaven-slaying sword art has already appeared. If nothing goes wrong, the earth-slaying sword art will appear soon as well. I'll search for the earth-slaying sword art after I snatch your heaven-slaying sword art. At that time, when the three great sword arts are fused, I, Yunting, will become the #1 sword in Divine Firmament Mainland, 9 Firmament Immortal Domain and even the entire heavenly world. In the future, I'll head to the sword world and challenge all the sword Dao experts there. I, Yunting, will use my sword to defeat all experts in the world and reign supreme for all eternity. With every word Yunting said, the sharpness of his body would turn sharper and his aura would strengthen. Yunting was accumulating strength. Although every single sentence he said seemed like he was muttering to himself, he was actually accumulating momentum for himself and exerting pressure on Su Zimo. Su Zimo's expression turned grim. It had been a long time since he had encountered such a terrifying and powerful opponent. The last person who gave him such pressure was Monk Daming. It's true that it is heaven's will to want to fuse the three great sword arts into one. Suddenly, Su Zimo smiled and said slowly, however, this might not be your opportunity. Yunting's intention to fuse the three great sword arts was shared with Su Zimo. Yunting glared at Su Zimo and nodded with a smile. You're right, we have the same thoughts. Therefore, even if we don't fight for the Jade Talisman, we'll definitely fight. His gaze was sharp as a sword and the glint in his eyes could even cause one to feel a sharp pain. If not for the fact that Su Zimo possessed the illumination and nether glow divine stones and cultivated 2 visual techniques, he would not have been able to meet Yunting's gaze. However, Su Zimo knew very well that if he avoided Yunting's gaze, the latter would definitely strike with the most ferocious attack given his senses. That was the terror of Yunting. On the other side, Yunting's evaluation of Su Zimo increased as well. If it was anyone else, they would not have been able to withstand his gaze. To think that this person who had ascended from the lower worlds could meet his gaze without being disadvantaged. Although the two of them were merely facing off on the surface, they were actually testing the waters. Any slight fluctuation or breathing or abnormal pulse would result in a shocking battle. Both parties were scrutinizing the other, carefully searching for openings. Among the otherworldly soldiers, Fang Xian and the others were still advancing with all their might. When Fang Xian and the others arrived, something else would definitely happen. There was not much time left for the two of them. Very good. Yunting was the first to speak and said in a deep voice, "You're indeed a good opponent and worthy of my full strength." The moment he said that, Yunting's pupils constricted like needles. Thereafter, 2 extremely sharp sword lights burst forth with a chilling aura. The 2 sword lights streaked through the void and even let out a sword hum. Without witnessing personally, it would be difficult to imagine that such terrifying sword lights were released from the eyes. Visual technique, Frost Soul Sword Eye. The 2 sword lights burst forth and the surrounding void seemed to freeze as the temperature dipped. Su Zimo channeled his essence spirit without holding back and released illumination and nether glow. However, something unexpected happened. Illumination Eye was released normally and released a blinding beam of light that charged towards the 2 sword beams. However, there was no reaction from the nether glow eye. When Su Zimo's spirit consciousness entered his left eye, it did not cause any ripples, as though it had encountered some obstruction. Previously on the lone island, the nether glow stone absorbed a tremendous amount of power of darkness and it was difficult for Su Zimo to activate it with his current essence spirit power. Of course, that power did not disappear and was hidden in the nether glow stone the entire time. If it was released one day, it would create an extremely terrifying scene. Boom! The two sword lights collided with the blazing beam of light and the ice melted, but they were reborn before long. If illumination and nether glow were released at the same time, they would definitely be superior to the Frost Soul Sword Eye. However, at that moment, there was only Illumination Eye. In this clash of visual techniques, Su Zimo was disadvantaged. Layers of frost formed on his body rapidly with a chilling intent. Boom! Yunting suddenly attacked and crossed the void, arriving instantly with a punch. Su Zimo had just been covered in frost and his movements were slightly affected when Yunting attacked. Any openings or opportunities would not be missed in a fight between top monster incarnates. All the momentum that Yunting had accumulated earlier on was gathered on that punch. It was torrential and unstoppable. In fact, Su Zimo felt suffocated. Before the punch arrived, his cheek was already in pain from the wind. He was way too strong. Against that punch, Su Zimo had nowhere to dodge. He punched in reverse, as though a gigantic seal was formed, towards Yunting's fist. Bang! The fists collided and the sound of flesh and bones grinding echoed. The power of the two of them was released completely in that punch. The two of them were evenly matched in terms of physique. But soon, Su Zimo felt a sharp pain on his fist. Yunting's sword Dao had already been cultivated to every part of his body. His brows, hair and even the hairs on his body were sharp killing weapons. Apart from the burst of his physical strength, Yunting's punch was also sharp. Although the sharpness of the sword Dao could not break through the defense of the Green Lotus true body, it stung Su Zimo. Chapter 1993, Change. Chapter 1993, Change. Both parties shuddered from the clash and it was hard to tell who was stronger. Su Zimo's expression was unchanged. He took advantage of the moment when the two of them were fighting to change his move at the last moment, turning his fist into a palm. The Great Chaos Essence palm was formed and crushed towards Yunting. The moment Su Zimo changed his move, Yunting changed his move as well. He closed two fingers and conjured a sword finger, turning his fist into a sword. The two of them had a strange chemistry and displayed unparalleled combat talent, unwilling to let go of any opportunity. The Great Chaos Essence palm was thick and steady with immense strength. His sword finger was sharp and could slice through metal and jade. The palm and sword collided with another loud bang. Crack! 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 Cracks appeared on the gigantic millstone formed by the Great Chaos Essence palm. The sharpness released by Yunting's sword finger shattered inch by inch as well. The two of them swayed slightly before retreating rapidly to distance themselves so that they could resolve the power that surged into their bodies. Although the fight between the two of them seemed short, it was almost at the peak of a grade 9 black immortal strength. Su Zimo frowned slightly. Ever since the Green Lotus True Body grew to grade 9, no one could defend against the power of the Green Lotus True Body's body even if he did not use blood qi. Be it the paragons of the four immortal sects or Feng Xian earlier on, they were weaker. Yunting was the only one who could fight the Green Lotus True Body head-on without being disadvantaged. Ever since Su Zimo ascended to the upper world, the Green Lotus True Body had grown rapidly. He cultivated a taboo mystic classic like the Prajna Nirvana Sutra and had already cultivated to the peak of grade 9 after absorbing utmost treasures such as the Sal Tree Leaf and 7 Glow Immortal Ginseng. He was only a step away from advancing to grade 10. Even so, the Green Lotus True Body could not gain the upper hand. In terms of strength, Yunting's physique was not weaker than his. In battle, Yunting displayed extremely terrifying talent and techniques as well. Yunting was only 200 years old and was too young. His potential was limitless. Up till this point of his cultivation, Su Zimo was already more than 2,000 years old. While Su Zimo was pondering, Yunting was even more shocked. Initially, Yunting thought that Su Zimo specialized in the heaven-slaying sword art and movement technique. However, he had not expected that there would be someone in the upper world who could defend against his physical strength. From the moment he was born, a phenomenon accompanied him. In order to help him temper his body, his father had searched for countless treasures and elixirs. He cultivated 10 top-tier body tempering cultivation techniques. When he was 100 years old, he fused the 10 body tempering cultivation techniques with the human-slaying sword art and underwent a complete transformation, attaining greater mastery of his body and bloodline. Even ordinary earth immortals could not defend against his sword finger. Yunting had not expected that someone of the same cultivation realm could match him. Good, good, good. Yunting nodded repeatedly with a delighted expression. The sword intent in his eyes intensified and burned. Su Zimo's aura rose continuously as well, with a surging battle intent and a burning gaze. Neither of them would retreat against such a rare opponent. Yunting's appearance triggered Su Zimo's pride as well. Battle. Almost at the same time, the two of them shouted and their figures swayed as they collided once more. Bang! 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 Clang! Clang! Su Zimo's fists, palms, claws, feet, shoulders, elbows, knees and every other part of his body could release extremely terrifying killing moves with unparalleled strength. Every single attack was accompanied by a fervent killing intent. Those methods were fused with the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness and the combat techniques of the Azure Dragon to form a combat technique that was suitable for his Green Lotus true body and possessed shocking might. Yunting was not weak either. His fingers, hair, sleeves, fists and every single move could release a sharp edge. No matter how ferocious Su Zimo's attacks were, he could resolve them. The two of them fought in melee combat and fought with speed. It was almost impossible to tell their figures apart as the sound of collisions could be heard continuously. Melee combat was the most dangerous. However, the two of them fought fiercely and within dozens of breaths, they had already exchanged hundreds of blows. Neither of them could gain the upper hand and it was a stalemate. Bang! The two of them clashed once more before retreating and breathing slowly. At that moment, it revealed how terrifying their stamina was. Neither of them had expended too much energy after the fight, both of them merely had heavy breathing and slightly rosy faces. You should be proud to be able to defend against so many of my moves. Yunting raised his head slightly. Use the heaven-slaying sword art. Let me see what level you've cultivated it to. Alright, as you wish. Su Zimo sneered, I want to see how powerful the legendary human-slaying sword art is to be ranked at the top of the 3 great sword arts. The moment he said that, Su Zimo channeled his essence spirit and conjured a sword art with his left hand. His aura changed and he emitted a cold killing intent. The skies above the hall were filled with stars, but at that moment, they lost their trajectory and were in chaos. Yunting looked at the stars in the firmaments and murmured, when the heaven's killing intent is released, the stars are shifted out of alignment. Not bad, not bad. As he said that, Yunting raised his palm slowly. A ball of sword light condensed in his palm. If his palm represented a world, the sword light was akin to shattering the entire world. Yunting's killing intent intensified. This is the human-slaying sword art? Su Zimo's eyes shone brightly. Indeed, he sensed a shuddering aura from the sword light that seemed like it could destroy the world. Yunting nodded slightly. Indeed, this is the human-slaying sword art. However, this is not the peak of its power. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Even though it was not the strongest manifestation of the human-slaying sword art, he already felt a sense of threat and trepidation. Yunting paused for a moment before changing the topic. He chuckled and said confidently, however, it's enough to deal with your heaven-slaying sword art. Is that so? Su Zimo's gaze intensified as he released the heaven-slaying sword art with all his might. Su Zimo waved his sword finger and instantly, 108,000 sword chi spewed out from his fingertip. They were dense and blazing, covering the skies. His other hand was empty the entire time, ready. If the heaven-slaying sword art could not defeat him, he would condense his sword finger and release the earth-slaying sword art. Yunting flipped his palm and sent the sword light in his palm out as well. Compared to Su Zimo's 108,000 heaven-slaying sword chi, the sword light seemed much weaker. However, it was filled with a terrifying aura. Once the sword light exploded, it would definitely be earth-shaking. Just as the two great sword arts were about to collide, a change happened. On the other side, a black figure charged towards Su Zimo with lightning speed and a murderous aura. The figure came from Su Zimo's side at an extremely fast speed. It closed in rapidly and punched towards Su Zimo's temple. It was incomparably ferocious and the air tore with a buzzing sound. This person's timing was perfect. This was the moment where Su Zimo had no time or energy to deal with other unforeseen circumstances after attacking. "Prince Yunting, let me help you kill this lad." The intruder laughed with a sinister smile hidden in the darkness. Fang Xian of the Yan-Yang Immortal Kingdom. Chapter 1994, Tacit Understanding. Chapter 1994, Tacit Understanding. Su Zimo and Yunting were fighting and neither of them dared to be distracted as they gave it their all. Neither of them noticed that Fang Xian had already charged out of the encirclement of the otherworldly soldiers. Fang Xian was brilliant and strong. He could definitely be considered as a top monster incarnate among the Black Immortals and could even fight against Su Zimo or Yunting. Even in a head-on fight, he might not lose to the two of them. However, Fang Xian was scheming and crafty. In this chaotic and complicated situation, he would definitely not choose to fight Su Zimo alone. The best way was to join forces with Yunting. Yunting had a noble status. Apart from his strength, as a prince, he might possess other unfathomable trump cards. If he joined forces with Yunting to get rid of Su Zimo, the rest would not be a threat. Even if he could not get his hands on the Jade Talisman in the end, the benefits of befriending Yunting would be unimaginable. As someone who had ascended from the lower worlds, he would not let go of any chance to change his fate and could even resort to unscrupulous means. Therefore, Fang Xian's attack this time round was thunderous and did not give Su Zimo any chance to escape. Although Su Zimo's spirit perception warned him first, the pressure and threat Yunting gave him was way too great. The current situation was equivalent to him fighting 1 against 2. Furthermore, both of them were top-tier experts of the Black Essence realm. The pressure on Su Zimo increased exponentially. It had been a long time since he had been forced into such a dangerous situation by a cultivator of the same cultivation realm. If Su Zimo were to release all his trump cards, he would naturally be able to neutralize their attacks. However, his green lotus true body would not be able to remain hidden. As long as he used his blood chi, Prince Yunting would definitely recognize him given the latter's experience. But now that the situation was critical, he would definitely be severely injured if he did not use his blood chi or even his bloodline phenomenon. Su Zimo had no way out. Instantly, countless thoughts flashed through his mind. Thereafter, a resolute look flashed through his eyes as he prepared to attack with his full strength. Right then, a change happened in the situation. Fang Xian's sudden appearance not only shocked Su Zimo, even Yunting was slightly stunned. Immediately, Yunting's expression was enraged and killing intent flashed through his eyes. He was too proud and disdained to join forces with others. It was rare to meet an opponent like Su Zimo. If he wanted to win, he would do it openly. Furthermore, Fang Xian was not joining forces with him, it was an ambush. In fact, Yunting felt like he was being used. Given his pride, he would definitely not allow Su Zimo to die in front of him like this. In a flash, Yunting glanced at Su Zimo and his spirit consciousness moved. The human-slaying sword light that was about to collide with the heaven-slaying sword chi suddenly dissipated into essence chi and dispersed in the hall. Yunting retracted his attack at the last moment. In a fight, if one party suddenly stopped and the other party did not or could not stop in time, it would be equivalent to committing suicide. That choice was way too risky. It was equivalent to Yunting exposing himself to the 108,000 heaven-slaying sword chi. The moment Yunting dispersed the human-slaying sword light, his other hand conjured a sword art with a cold killing intent and slashed towards Fang Xian. The human-slaying sword qi burst forth and was aimed at Fang Xian. You! When Fang Xian noticed that, he was shocked and enraged, cursing internally as a lunatic. He had schemed and deduced countless possible changes, but he had not expected Yunting to make such a choice. On the other side, Yunting's change of move surprised Su Zimo as well. Initially, he was surrounded by two top experts and was in a dangerous situation. But now, the situation was reversed because of Yunting's choice. Instead, he had a chance of becoming the biggest winner. As long as he did not stop, even if the 108,000 heaven-slaying sword qi could not kill Yunting, they could severely injure him. At the same time, Yunting had already attacked Fang Xian and released his human-slaying sword qi. If Su Zimo turned to deal with Fang Xian, there was a high chance that he would severely injure the latter. With that, he could get rid of two of his greatest opponents and threats. Su Zimo did not even look at Fang Xian at the side. He merely looked at Yunting deeply and his spirit consciousness moved. He chose to stop as well and dispersed the 108,000 heaven-slaying sword qi. Yunting was prideful and stopped because of that. Su Zimo was an upright person and would not hit someone when they were down. The two of them had different personalities and backgrounds and had never met before. Earlier on, they were still fighting intensely. However, at this moment, they had a strange tacit understanding. Initially, Su Zimo was prepared to condense the earth-slaying sword art with his empty palm. However, at that moment, his killing intent was triggered. This Fang Xian was way too sinister. It was like a viper hiding in the dark, never knowing when it would appear and deal a fatal blow. Instantly, Su Zimo channeled his spirit consciousness and the gray fog in his palm surged, forming a saber that emitted a shuddering aura. The greater divine power, time is like a saber. Against Fang Xian's punch, Su Zimo did not dodge or avoid and slashed with the time saber in reverse. In the blink of an eye, the situation changed and Fang Xian was surrounded by two monster incarnates, Su Zimo and Yunting. Indeed, Fang Xian was faster. However, even if he could hit Su Zimo on the head, it would be difficult for him to escape from the killing sword qi behind him. Fang Xian did not have the guts to use his life in exchange. He had ascended through the 4 of 9 heavenly tribulation and did not want to die yet. Instantly, Fang Xian could only retreat. Right then, the time saber slashed over. Although the gray saber was strange, Fang Xian did not feel much threat. Furthermore, compared to the killing sword qi on the other side, the gray saber seemed even more ordinary. Most of Fang Xian's energy was spent on dealing with the human-slaying sword qi. He took a deep breath and condensed at least a dozen lesser divine powers in front of him, most of them defensive divine powers. On the other side, he waved his sleeves as he retreated towards the time saber. Bang! The saber was shattered by him with ease and his sleeves were not damaged at all. How could this be? The fact that he was able to neutralize the gray saber with ease alarmed Fang Xian instead. However, it was too late. The power of time had already surged into his body. Initially, Fang Xuanyan was only slightly more than 10,000 years old. For a black immortal with a lifespan of 100,000 years, he was considered young. However, his lifespan was reduced by 60,000 years after he was slashed by the time saber. In the lower worlds, the time saber could sever 30,000 years of lifespan with a single slash. In the upper world, when released with heaven and earth essence qi, its power would increase exponentially and a single slash could sever 60,000 years of lifespan. Initially, Fang Xian was only a black-robed young man. In the blink of an eye, he missed his peak and was now more than 70,000 years old. Fang Xian was not wrong. Indeed, the time saber could not threaten his life. However, the impact of losing 60,000 years of lifespan was way too great for him. It was difficult to accept the difference and loss of time in a short period of time. Furthermore, now that Fang Xian was more than 70,000 years old, in terms of physique, blood qi, essence spirit and body, he had already missed his peak and was now going downhill. Chapter 1995, Death of Feng Xian. Chapter 1995, Death of Feng Xian. Although Su Zimo's slash did not manage to kill Feng Xian directly, the impact on him was way too great. Feng Xian's figure swayed slightly and for a moment, many openings appeared in the dozens of divine powers and secret skills condensed in front of him. Due to the time saber, a full 60,000 years of his lifespan disappeared and his essence spirit fluctuated violently. It was already incredible that the divine powers and secret skills did not dissipate on the spot. That was also proof of Feng Xian's terrifying control. Even if he was struck by the time saber, he could calm down right away and try his best to adapt to his current body. If it was just the time saber, it would naturally not be a threat to Feng Xian. However, the moment Feng Xian's lifespan decreased, the human-slaying sword qi descended. Poof! 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 The dozens of divine powers and secret skills in front of Feng Xian shattered one after another and could not defend against the killing power of the human-slaying sword qi. If Feng Xian had not been struck by the time saber, he would not have been in such a sorry state after condensing the dozens of divine powers and secret skills. However, his essence spirit was unstable after being struck by the time saber, and flaws appeared in the dozens of divine powers and secret skills. Coupled with the fact that the human-slaying sword qi was way too terrifying and killing intent was at its limits, the dozens of divine powers and secret skills were penetrated by it with ease. The sharpness of the human-slaying sword qi surged towards Feng Xian, wanting to slice him up. Ah! At that moment of life and death, Feng Xian roared with a menacing expression and chopped down with his left arm using his right hand. Feng Xian's hand cleaver was extremely sharp as well and sliced off his left arm in a single motion. Fresh blood gushed out and floated in the air without dissipating. "It's not that easy to kill me." Feng Xian growled and channeled his essence spirit, releasing a secret skill from the divine elephant breathing technique at the cost of losing an arm. Bang! The severed arm exploded and many flesh and bones gathered in front of Feng Xian, forming a blood-colored elephant tusk with a torrential blood stench. Under Feng Xian's control, the elephant tusk smashed towards the human-slaying sword qi. Clang! It was a clash of sharpness. An ear-piercing sound echoed, as though metal was colliding. Crack! 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 Cracks appeared on the blood-colored elephant tusk, and after a brief pause, it shattered. Although the human-slaying sword qi had faded significantly, it still emitted a chilling killing intent that was enough to kill any black immortal. Even Feng Xian's severed arm and secret skill could not defend against a single human-slaying sword qi. However, that single delay gave Feng Xian a rare breather. Swoosh! Feng Xian channeled his bloodline and the sound of a tsunami echoed from his body. Immediately after, a gigantic divine elephant appeared behind Feng Xian and swung its trunk, roaring into the skies. On both sides of the divine elephant's trunk were 6 gigantic white tusks that were smooth as jade and sharp. That was Feng Xian's bloodline phenomenon, the 6-tusked divine elephant. One of the innate divine powers that Su Zimo cultivated came from the 6-tusked divine elephant. As though it sensed the threat as well, the divine elephant swung its trunk and whipped towards the incoming sword light. Poof! The sword light was sharp and sliced the divine elephant's trunk into 2. The human-slaying sword qi was way too ferocious. It penetrated the dozens of divine powers and secret skills of Feng Xian, destroyed the secret skill condensed by his severed arm, and even shattered his bloodline phenomenon. Of course, after colliding with the bloodline phenomenon, the human-slaying sword qi dissipated as well. Clutching his broken arm, Feng Xian retreated and distanced himself from Su Zimo and Yunting rapidly. He was overjoyed and his eyes were filled with the exhilaration of surviving a calamity. This was the combined attack of Su Zimo and Yunting. Feng Xian was proud to be able to escape from their killing moves and survive. Apart from Feng Xian, there was probably no one else in the Emperor's tomb who could defend against the 2 killing moves earlier on. Ha 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 ha. Feng Xian laughed wildly and shouted, I've already said that you guys can't kill me. Although he lost an arm this time round, he did not suffer any setbacks after this battle. Instead, he comprehended much more. This was an experience at the brink of life and death that was extremely difficult to replicate. Once he returned to the Yin-Yang Immortal Kingdom, he would definitely advance to the Earth Essence realm and become an Earth Immortal. At that time, his lifespan would increase to 200,000 years and the loss of 60,000 years would be nothing. Earth Immortals could regrow severed limbs and so his severed arm could be regrown. This brush with life and death was a rare experience and ordeal for him. As long as he could get out alive, his combat strength would increase significantly. This was a true monster incarnate. As long as they could survive the test of life and death, they could grow rapidly. Su Zimo glanced at Feng Xian indifferently and lamented internally. If this person were to leave, he would definitely become a strong foe and a huge calamity. However, he was in front of a great enemy at the moment and could not split himself into two to chase after Feng Xian. That was unless he intended to let Yunting have the jade talisman. Yunting knew that as well. He looked at Feng Xian and smiled gently, shouting, "You're quite capable to be able to defend against my human-slaying sword qi. I'll spare your life today." Scram. Hee hee. Feng Xian sneered, "I'll remember the favor of losing my arm and lifespan today. If we meet in the future, I'll definitely thank you guys properly." After saying that, Feng Xian prepared to leave. He had lost an arm and his lifespan was reduced. In order to dispel the human-slaying sword qi earlier on, he had almost used all his trump cards and could no longer fight for the jade talisman. Right now, the most important thing was for him to escape while he still had the strength to do so. Just as he turned around, a cold glint flashed. Fast. It was too fast. There was no time to react at all. Feng Xian felt his throat turn cold. Immediately after, a warm and sticky liquid sprayed out continuously in a scarlet manner. That was his blood. With a horrified expression, Feng Xian reached out in a panic and clutched the wound on his throat. However, blood continued flowing through his fingers and could not be stopped. His throat was almost severed by some sharp weapon. Not far in front of Feng Xian, a purple figure appeared. Tang Zi was expressionless as she waved her hand gently. Blood dripped down from her sharp fingernails and they became squeaky clean once more. "You!" "Croak, croak." Feng Xian pointed at Tang Zi with an enraged expression, as though he wanted to say something. However, he could only let out a strange sound. "You can't leave." Tang Zi flicked her fingernails and said indifferently. The 5 fingernails retracted slowly as though they had never appeared. Her fingers were slender like green onions and her jade-like hands were lean. They did not look like hands that could kill. Broop. Broop. Feng Xian wanted to speak again. However, the moment he opened his mouth, blood began to flow and he could not say a single word. The anger in Feng Xian's eyes gradually turned into fear. He could clearly sense the loss of life in his body that could not be stopped or reversed. He realized that he was not going to survive. Even if his essence spirit could leave his body, it would not last long. A strong sense of indignance surged in his heart. He managed to defend against the combined attack of Su Zimo and Yunting. To think that he could not avoid that final fatal attack. Chapter 1996, Heaven Slaying, Earth Slaying. Chapter 1996, Heaven Slaying, Earth Slaying. Feng Xian glared at Tang Zi with bloodshot eyes. Although he looked weak right now, as long as Tang Zi leaned forward, he could still launch his final counterattack before his blood qi deteriorated completely. However, as a top assassin, Tang Zi was way too cautious. It was a fatal attack without any entanglement and she maintained a relatively safe distance from Feng Xian. She did not need to do anything else. As long as she looked at Feng Xian quietly and waited patiently, the latter would definitely die. Her fingernails were sharp and lightning was hidden on them. Feng Xian's torn throat could not be healed at all. Feng Xian could only wait for death. Su Zimo felt emotional when he saw that. Previously, Fang Xian took the initiative to attack Tang Zi and the outcome was undecided. To think that Fang Xian would still die in Tang Zi's hands in the end. That was the terror of a top-tier assassin. Of course, Fang Xian's death was not unjustified. This was equivalent to Su Zimo, Yun Ting, and Tang Zi, three peerless monster incarnates attacking. There was probably no black immortal in this world who could survive the encirclement of these three people. In that short period of time, Fang Xian's eyes dimmed and his face turned pale. His body began to sway and he could not hold on any longer. A light shone on Fang Xian's head and an essence spirit left his body. He could only abandon his body. However, his essence spirit did not fly far before it was tainted by the curse of the Emperor's tomb. Its aura was weak and dimmed as it gradually dissipated. Fang Xian was invincible in the lower worlds and had passed the 4 of 9 heavenly tribulation. In terms of potential and endowment, he was not much inferior to Su Zimo. However, he still died here and no one would remember him in the future. This was the cruelty of the upper world. Because of Fang Xian's background, Su Zimo thought of himself and felt emotional. However, Yun Ting's expression was calm. As a prince of the upper world, although he was very young, he was long indifferent to such things. Throughout history, there had been too many monster incarnates like Fang Xian who died. To Yun Ting, those who died early were nothing. Only true experts could rise continuously and stand tall. Yun Ting looked at Su Zimo and suddenly asked, "Why did you stop earlier on?" He was asking about the 108,000 heaven-slaying sword chi that Su Zimo condensed initially before dissipating. Su Zimo said, "Since you chose to change moves, I won't hit you when you're down either." Fu. Yun Ting chuckled and raised his brow. "You're thinking too much. Since I dared to change moves, I'm naturally confident that I can withstand your heaven-slaying sword chi. However, you're different from me. If I hadn't changed my move earlier on, you would have died." Su Zimo smiled as well. "That's unnecessary. Even if you hadn't changed moves, would have been able to escape unscathed from you and Fang Xian's combined attacks." Although the two of them stopped attacking for the time being, they still competed fiercely through words. Su Zimo was not lying either. Of course, even if he could escape unscathed, he would definitely expose the secret of the Green Lotus true body. Yun Ting pouted. "Your trump card has already been exposed. That time divine power is indeed not bad. However, since I've already seen it and am prepared, it's no longer a threat to me." Pausing for a moment, Yun Ting glanced at Tang Zi who was not far away and said proudly, "The two of you can come at me together. I'll take it alone." Yun Ting was way too conceited. He did not care to join forces with others, or was he afraid of them joining forces against him? Tang Zi was expressionless. For her, she had no qualms about bullying with numbers. For assassins, they only pursued results. She would not feel burdened either. Even if Yun Ting did not say it, she would find an opportunity to get rid of him. Right then, 4 figures approached rapidly and surrounded Tang Zi. The moment Fang Xian died, the 4 paragons of the 4 immortal sects had already charged through the encirclement of the otherworldly soldiers. The 4 of them were extremely smart and could see through the situation. Su Zimo and Yun Ting were like 2 ferocious tigers. The wisest thing for them to do right now was to let the 2 ferocious tigers fight and kill one another. As for the 4 of them, if they could resolve the latent danger of Tang Zi, they could sit by and watch the tigers fight, controlling the situation and becoming the eventual victors. If Su Zimo and Tang Zi were to join forces to kill Yun Ting, the 4 of them might not be a match for Su Zimo and her. The 4 of them conversed and were prepared to join forces to kill Tang Zi first. Although Tang Zi's expression was unchanged, she was slightly shocked. The 4 of them were unlike the cultivators of the 10 absolute hell. They came from the 4 immortal sects and were each more troublesome to deal with than the other. If it was a one-on-one fight, she was confident that she could kill any of them. Even against 2 of them, she could guarantee that she would not be defeated. However, she could barely protect herself against the encirclement of 4 experts, let alone assassinate Yunting. Female patron, stop running around. Fight us. The bald monk said with a smile and waved his wide sleeves, attacking first. Immediately after, the Iron Tower man, middle-aged Daoist and blue-dressed woman attacked one after another. The 4 of them joined forces and released a torrential storm of attacks that was suffocating. Although the situation was critical, there was no hint of panic on Tang Zi's face. With a calm expression, she shifted and fought against the 4 paragons. On the other side, Yunting shook his head gently. Unfortunately, this lady can't even protect herself. She can't help you anymore. I alone am enough to defeat you. Su Zimo's gaze intensified and his aura began to climb. All right. Yunting's aura intensified as he said slowly, let's see what else you have. Su Zimo pinched his sword fingers with both hands and channeled 2 completely different sword arts that were filled with a terrifying killing intent. Initially, Su Zimo wanted to hide the earth-slaying sword art as a backup plan. However, when he saw how terrifying the human-slaying sword chi was earlier on, he did not dare to hold back and release the heaven and earth-slaying sword arts at the same time. Above the firmaments, the stars were shifted out of alignment. On the fingertip of Su Zimo's right hand, the 108,000 heaven-slaying sword chi gathered continuously, forming a heaven-slaying sword that was intertwined with sword chi. Su Zimo's left sword finger moved and the ground trembled, cracking continuously as a gigantic soaring serpent condensed from sword chi burrowed out. The skies split open and a gigantic blue dragon popped its head out, glaring at Yunting murderously with its horns. When the earth's killing intent is released, the dragon snake shall rise. The heaven and earth slaying sword arts were conjured at the same time and Su Zimo pushed them to their limits. The entire hall could sense endless killing intent that threatened to destroy the world. The 4 paragons that surrounded Tang Zi were secretly alarmed when they saw that. The auras of the 2 great sword arts were way too terrifying. Extreme killing power. If that was the case for the 4 paragons outside the battlefield, it was hard to imagine the pressure Yunting was under. If the 4 of them saw Yunting's face, they would be shocked. Yunting was actually smiling. He could not conceal the joy and ecstasy in his eyes. Finally, Yunting could not hold it in any longer and reared his head in laughter with an excited expression. Chapter 1997, Human-Slaying Sword Intent. Chapter 1997, Human-Slaying Sword Intent. Yunting was truly delighted. The heaven and earth-slaying sword arts were both in the hands of a single person. Furthermore, they were in front of him. This was a gift from the heavens. What were opportunities? This. As long as he defeated Su Zimo, he would be able to obtain the 2 sword arts and fuse them together. Good, good, good. After laughing, Yunting nodded repeatedly. It's best that you mastered the heaven and earth slaying sword arts. This way, I don't have to hold back. I'll let you witness the true might of the human slaying sword art. The stronger Su Zimo was, the more excited Yunting was. In his eyes, all his opponents were his sword testing stones and would only make his sword Dao sharper and unstoppable. You've only mastered one of the 3 great sword arts. No matter how strong the human-slaying sword art is, how can it fight against heaven and earth? Su Zimo conjured the heaven and earth-slaying sword arts with both hands and sneered at the energetic Yunting. Ha 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 ha. Yunting stood in midair and was surrounded by countless sword chi. His black hair danced as he laughed. Today, I'll tell you why the human-slaying sword is the top of the 3 great sword arts. Even with the heaven-slaying sword hovering above his head, Yunting's aura was still unparalleled and could not be suppressed by the soaring serpent and blue dragon. With every word, the sharpness of Yunting's body intensified, as though he wanted to break through the world and sever the void. Yunting's figure turned blurry and was faintly discernible in midair. In its place was a sharp sword with torrential killing intent. Looking at the current Yunting, Su Zimo gradually understood. He finally understood why the human-slaying sword art is the top of the three great sword arts. Right then, Yunting's voice sounded once more. Although the expert who created this sword art is not from the heavenly world, he is still a human. When the heaven's killing intent is released, the stars are shifted out of alignment. When the earth's killing intent is released, the dragon snake shall rise. When the human's killing intent is released, heaven and earth shall topple. The intention of this sword art is to fight against heaven and earth with the body of a human. Everywhere it points, even heaven and earth shall topple and give way. After saying that, Yunting's figure vanished completely, and in its place was a sword that was about to tear heaven and earth apart with extreme killing power. Apart from its killing power, the human-slaying sword art contained an unyielding sword intent that rose against the tides and could not be suppressed by heaven and earth. Although the heaven and earth-slaying sword arts were strong, they were way too inferior in terms of intent and were countered by the human-slaying sword art. The human-slaying sword slashed forward. Boom! There was no sound of metal clashing when the three great sword arts collided. Instead, there was a loud bang. Crack! 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 Immediately after, a series of cracking sounds could be heard from midair. Cracks appeared on the heaven-slaying sword, soaring serpent and blue dragon. Although the light on the human-slaying sword dimmed significantly, it was still filled with an extremely sharp edge that could destroy the world. The human-slaying sword art was way too strong. Even the heaven and earth-slaying swords could not defend against the might of the human-slaying sword. Swoosh! The human-slaying sword charged through the encirclement of the heaven and earth-slaying sword arts and descended from the skies, slashing towards Su Zimo. Although the entire process sounded slow, it happened in an instant. After destroying the two sword arts, the human-slaying sword descended on Su Zimo's head without any pause and did not give him any time to react. At that moment, Yunting was slightly stunned as well. Unknowingly, a gigantic turtle shell had formed in front of Su Zimo. It was filled with divine powers and shone brightly. There were complicated ravines on the turtle shell that shone mysteriously. Innate divine power, spirit turtle shield. Under normal circumstances, Su Zimo did not have time to activate that innate divine power. However, after he sensed the sword intent contained by the human-slaying sword art, he realized that the heaven and earth-slaying sword arts could not defend against it at all. It was a complete suppression of strength, aura and intent. Therefore, after releasing the two sword arts, Su Zimo did not pause at all and forcefully activated the spirit turtle shield. Divine powers and secret skills such as the heaven and earth-slaying sword arts as well as the spirit turtle shield consumed a lot of essence spirit. If it was any other black immortal, their essence spirits would not be able to withstand the release of those three divine powers and secret skills in a short period of time and would collapse on the spot. Thankfully, Su Zimo's essence spirit had already reached the earth immortal realm. Furthermore, he was a green lotus essence spirit and could withstand many divine powers and secret skills in a short period of time. The spirit turtle shield was the strongest defensive technique in the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness. The human-slaying sword art was the peak of killing power. Boom! In the blink of an eye, the human-slaying sword art struck the spirit turtle shield and let out a deafening bang. The entire hall shook. On the other side of the battlefield, the four paragons and Tang Zi were alarmed. The sword and shield collided and released a blinding light. The five of them merely glanced from the corner of their eyes from afar and felt a sharp pain. The four paragons were shocked and felt relieved at the same time. Thankfully, the four of them did not participate in the fight between the two of them. Otherwise, who could defend against such an attack? The light of the collision of the sword and shield engulfed the two of them instantly. In fact, the five of them did not even know who had the upper hand in this clash. After a while, the light gradually dissipated and Su Zimo and Yunting reappeared. The two of them were still standing where they were. The sword and shield had vanished and they did not seem to have moved at all. Only those who were still alive in the hall knew how terrifying the fight between the two of them was. It should be a draw. Tang Zi heaved a sigh of relief. Although she was facing 4 strong foes, she knew in her heart that the one opposite Su Zimo was even more terrifying. Su Zimo frowned slightly. The human-slaying sword art was much stronger than he had imagined. Even after being exhausted by heaven and earth-slaying sword arts, the human-slaying sword art could still tie with the spirit turtle shield. This meant that if he merely released the divine power of the spirit turtle shield, he would not be able to defend against the sharpness of the human-slaying sword art. On the other side, although Yunting looked calm, his heart was in turmoil. The human-slaying sword art had returned fruitless and was blocked. Up till this point of his cultivation, there had never been anyone of the same cultivation realm who could defend against the sharpness of the human-slaying sword art. The person before him was completely unharmed against the human-slaying sword art. Indeed, you surprised me. Yunting composed himself swiftly and spoke slowly. However, pausing for a moment, Yunting changed the topic. If that's all you've got, you'll definitely lose today. Confidence returned to Yunting's eyes as he raised his head proudly. He was not lying. Even if he could not release the human-slaying sword art again within a short period of time, he still had many powerful trump cards that he could rely on. However, to Yunting, Su Zimo was at his wit's end. As the prince of an immortal kingdom, he had a noble status and unlimited resources. That was why he had so many powerful methods. However, Su Zimo was someone who ascended from the lower worlds after all. Without the heaven and earth slaying sword arts as well as the turtle shell divine power or strange movement technique, what else could this person have left? Chapter 1998, Might of Sword Blood. Chapter 1998, Might of Sword Blood. The situation in the hall was gradually becoming clearer. The only ones who truly broke out of the encirclement of the otherworldly soldiers were Su Zimo, Yunting, Fang Xian, Tang Zi, and the paragons of the 4 immortal sects. There were less than 10 people in total. Now that Fang Xian was dead, the 7 of them were the only ones left to fight for the Jade Talisman. The other cultivators no longer had a chance. To be precise, it was already extremely fortunate if those cultivators managed to survive. The number of otherworldly soldiers increased and there was no way to kill them all. Furthermore, the otherworldly soldiers that awakened later on were stronger and the black immortals in the tomb were sliced like vegetables. There were more than 10,000 cultivators who entered the hall, but now, there were less than 1,000. Blood qi filled the hall and corpses were strewn everywhere. Some cultivators with foresight had already begun charging out of the hall. The otherworldly soldiers seemed to be restricted by something and could not leave the palace. As long as they escaped from the palace, they would be able to survive. Beneath the Jade Talisman, Su Zimo faced off against Yunting. The paragons of the 4 immortal sects surrounded Tang Zi and fought intensely without stopping. Although the battle between the 5 of them was not as earth-shaking as the fight between Su Zimo and Yunting, it was still dangerous. While Tang Zi was best at assassination, it was difficult for her to unleash it in such a battle. She was surrounded by 4 paragons and could not break out at all. Her combat strength was definitely superior to any of the 4 paragons individually. However, the difference between 1 and 4 was too great. Up till this point of the battle, Tang Zi had only been contending against the 4 paragons with her unfathomable movement techniques and immense combat talent. Zi had been dodging and defending the entire time without retaliating. The 4 paragons had great chemistry with one another. Even if someone revealed an opening, others would make up for it swiftly. If Tang Zi were to retaliate forcefully, there was a high chance that she would be severely injured. The current situation was a little strange. Among the 7 of them, Su Zimo and Yunting were definitely superior in terms of combat strength. However, the 2 of them could fight at any moment and it might benefit others instead. The situation was changing rapidly and all 7 of them had a chance of snatching the Jade Talisman. Yunting swept his gaze across the battlefield at the side before looking at Su Zimo and saying slowly, "I'm determined to get my hands on the Jade Talisman as well as the heaven and earth slaying sword arts. I won't give you another chance." Yunting was confident that he was invincible, and there was a hint of cynicism in his expression when he attacked previously. It was only now that he was serious and fully prepared. Splash! A tsunami surged from Yunting's body with a terrifying might. Tsunami blood. Clang! Clang! Immediately after, the sound of sword chi clashing echoed through the tsunami, piercing through metal and cracking rocks with a sharp edge. Su Zimo's expression turned grim. Yunting's blood chi was way too strong. This was not just a simple tsunami blood. Every single drop of blood in Yunting's body contained an extreme killing intent that could destroy the world. Sword blood flowed through Yunting's body. It was no exaggeration to say that a single drop of his blood could kill a grade 9 black immortal. The pressure on Su Zimo and Yunting increased exponentially. Blood chi surged through the void through Yunting's body. Streaks of sword scars appeared on Su Zimo's green robes and his cheeks were in pain. Before Yunting attacked, Su Zimo already felt like he was about to be torn apart and drowned by the blood chi. Sensing that blood chi, the Green Lotus bloodline became restless as well. Taking a deep breath of air, Su Zimo suppressed the Green Lotus bloodline in his body. The creation Green Lotus was the only one in the world and was extremely important. Back then, it even attracted an assassination attempt from an immortal king of the heavenly world. Su Zimo did not dare to be careless. Unless it was a life and death situation, he would definitely not expose his Green Lotus bloodline. You've lost. The moment Su Zimo suppressed his bloodline, Yunting sensed something and attacked with a bright gaze. That was the terror of top-tier experts. Any slight change could not escape their senses. Su Zimo suppressed his bloodline and his aura naturally weakened. Yunting seized the opportunity and released a ferocious attack. Yunting closed two fingers with both hands and conjured a sword art, as though he was waving two swords with a murderous aura. The moment he attacked, dozens of sword lights enveloped Su Zimo completely. After releasing his blood chi, Yunting's combat strength increased exponentially and he almost crushed Su Zimo in a single move. Ah! Chapter 1999, You're Still Young. Chapter 1999, You're Still Young. Initially, Yunting had a thought in his heart that he wanted to take Su Zimo under his wing after suppressing the latter. That way, Su Zimo would become a great help to him. But now, he realized that given Su Zimo's capabilities and talent, he would definitely not submit to others. Let's fight. Yunting's blood chi surged and his sword chi buzzed as he shouted, "Let's see how long you can last against my attacks." His sword finger could penetrate Su Zimo's defense. At the very least, he had the absolute upper hand and the initiative. Furthermore, he had even stronger trump cards that he had yet to use. Once released, those methods would be earth-shaking and apocalyptic, even he could not control it. The moment he said that, Yunting attacked once more, waving his sword finger towards Su Zimo. Su Zimo was fearless. Relying on the augmentation of the six-tusk divine strength, he leaped up and fought against Yunting. Su Zimo was invincible among his peers in melee combat and was almost invincible. It was not only because the Green Lotus true body was strong, but also because of his melee combat techniques. It had the toughness of dragons and elephants, the ferocity of tigers and leopards, the nimbleness of apes and snakes, as well as the steadiness of bears and turtles. Those techniques originated from the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness and had gone through countless life and death experiences. After comprehending and summarizing, Su Zimo reorganized them, fused them with other brilliant combat skills and mastered them, forming his own unique combat skills. Although those combat skills were derived from the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness, they were more suitable for Su Zimo than the mystic classic of the 12 demon kings of the great wilderness itself. However, against Yunting, Su Zimo could not gain any advantage in melee combat. Although Yunting was restricted and had to use his fingers in place of an actual sword, he could still release countless exquisite sword techniques. Coupled with the sharpness of his sword finger, Yunting was still in control of the situation and had the upper hand. Even so, Yunting was getting more and more alarmed. What sword techniques did he cultivate? Those sword techniques were created by many seniors and sword cultivators of the upper world after countless years of comprehension. Coupled with his sword blood and talent in the Tao of the sword, the power of every sword technique would be magnified when released by him. However, no matter how ferocious his attacks were, they were resolved by Su Zimo's combat techniques one after another. He had never seen any of Su Zimo's combat techniques before. At times, when Su Zimo attacked, it was as though he was possessed by a true dragon and his strength was unparalleled. However, in the blink of an eye, Su Zimo's aura changed and his movement technique became agile, slithering around him like an ape. Even the sharp sword finger that he relied on the most did not affect Su Zimo much. In the blink of an eye, the two of them had exchanged hundreds of blows. Dozens of wounds appeared on Su Zimo's body from his sword finger. However, Su Zimo's regeneration capabilities were way too strong. Even in such an intense battle, Su Zimo's wounds healed quickly without losing much blood qi. On the contrary, if his attacks weakened slightly, Su Zimo would definitely retaliate in an extremely ferocious manner. There were a few times when he was almost grabbed by Su Zimo's palm. Su Zimo's fingernails were sharp like the claws of a tiger. If it landed on him, there would definitely be 5 bloodied wounds. As time passed by, Yunting became frustrated. Although he was more than 200 years old, he was way too young for the upper world. He had rich cultivation resources, shocking talent, a deep background and noble status. However, he was too young and his mental state was much inferior. Up till this point of his cultivation, Yunting had fought countless battles and encountered many paragons and monster incarnates. He had never been delayed to this extent. However, Su Zimo was unusually calm the entire time. He was in no hurry and his eyes were expressionless. His spirit perception had even sensed the restlessness in Yunting's heart. If one's mental state was unstable, they would definitely reveal some openings. Yunting's heart skipped a beat and the sharpness of his sword finger merely trembled slightly. Su Zimo sensed it and counterattacked with a bright gaze. "You're still young," Su Zimo said indifferently. His tone sounded like he was lecturing a junior. When Yunting heard that, he was so angry that he almost vomited blood. The change in his mental state was way too subtle and could not even be considered as an opening. However, that was enough for Su Zimo. Clang! Clang! The sound of metal clashing echoed. It was Su Zimo's fingernails that collided with Yunting's sword finger and sparks flew. Su Zimo's fingernails were severed by Yunting's sword finger. Su Zimo's other palm seized the opportunity and passed through the layers of sword shadows, landing heavily on Yunting's chest. Bang! That was the great chaos essence palm and Su Zimo did not hold back. Su Zimo pushed his palm down and frowned slightly. His palm did not strike flesh. Instead, it was cold to the touch. The moment the palm landed, the clothes on Yunting's chest were shattered, revealing a shimmering silver inner armor. Thud! 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 Yunting retreated continuously and every step he took left a deep footprint on the ground. Chapter 2000, I'm sorry, I want to win. Chapter 2000, I'm sorry, I want to win. After killing the blue-dressed woman, the Zephyr Thunder wings behind Tang Zi flapped wildly and lightning crackled on her body as she dodged to the side. Although she was fast, the middle-aged Taoist was not slow either. Almost at the same time that Tang Zi killed the blue-dressed woman, the middle-aged Taoist's sleeve struck. The sleeves looked elegant and soft, but they suddenly tightened when they descending from the skies like two thick and tough iron rods. While Tang Zi could avoid the fatal blow at the back of her head, she could not avoid the killing move that came from her back. Bang! The sleeves first struck the Zephyr Thunder wings, shattering them before colliding heavily against Tang Zi's back with a dull thud. Tang Zi shuddered and staggered. Opening her mouth slightly, she spat out a mouthful of blood and her face turned incomparably pale. Even so, her expression was extremely calm, as though she could not feel any pain. Both parties were top-tier experts and the difference in their combat strength was not great to begin with. There was no way she could escape unscathed after forcefully killing one of them against the encirclement of the four of them. The middle-aged Taoist priest used the secret skill, heart-piercing. The power of that attack was extremely terrifying and could even penetrate Tang Zi's back. Tang Zi's reaction was extremely ingenious as well. While she summoned the Zephyr Thunder wings to speed up, the pair of wings blocked a lot of power for her and minimized the damage she suffered. Humph. The middle-aged Taoist priest was not annoyed that he could not kill Tang Zi with a single move. He merely sneered, "Let's see how many moves you can last after being struck by my heart-piercing." Tang Zi darted out and the bald monk and Iron Tower man closed in with murderous auras, not giving her any chance to catch her breath. She was expressionless as she twisted and turned in the encirclement of the three of them, her movement technique clearly slower. In just a few breaths, there were countless dangers and she was almost killed on the spot by the three of them. Although one of the four paragons was dead, Tang Zi's situation was even more dangerous and she could die on the spot at any moment. Su Zimo frowned slightly. If he were to attack, he would naturally be able to save Tang Zi. However, that would be equivalent to giving the Jade Talisman to Yunting. A life was at stake. No matter how important the Jade Talisman was, it was just an object. It did not matter if it was given to Yunting. At that thought, Su Zimo made up his mind and was prepared to give up on the Jade Talisman to help Tang Zi. However, the moment he willed it and before he could do anything, he felt an extremely terrifying aura lock onto him. If he made a single move, he would definitely attract an unimaginably terrifying attack. Against that aura, Su Zimo even had the illusion that he could be sliced into nothingness at any moment. "How dare you get distracted in front of me and harbor other thoughts?" Yunting's voice sounded. It was calm and contained suppressed anger. It was like the calm before a storm and the dullness under the thick dark clouds was suffocating. Su Zimo looked at Yunting and could not help but feel shocked. At that moment, Yunting's figure floated slowly and the blood qi in his body surged. It was clear that he had already pushed it to his limits. The blood qi circled around his body and formed blood-colored sword qi that intertwined behind him in a dense manner. Clang! Clang! The blood-colored sword qi trembled continuously and let out sword hums that intertwined. A gigantic blood-colored sword gradually appeared behind Yunting and soared into the skies. Even the dome of the hall could not conceal its sharpness. The blood-colored sword emitted a destructive aura before it even materialized completely. It was as though nothing in the world across all living beings of the three realms could defend against a single slash from the blood-colored sword. Bloodline phenomenons. That was Yunting's bloodline phenomenon, but it was clear that he had not mastered it completely. That power was way too strong and terrifying. Yunting could not control it at all. Even Su Zimo felt his heart tremble as the green lotus bloodline surged within his body uncontrollably. Once Yunting's bloodline phenomenon was formed, he could only fight it head-on by summoning the bloodline phenomenon of the creation green lotus. Su Zimo's expression turned grim. The bloodline phenomenon conjured by Yunting was enough to kill him. It won't be just a serious injury, but a complete death. Yunting's face was bloodshot and his body trembled slightly. He was also enduring immense pressure when he channeled his bloodline phenomenon. Up till this point of his cultivation, there had never been a cultivator of the same cultivation realm who could force him to release his bloodline phenomenon. Su Zimo, I admire you very much and can't bear to kill you. Yunting glared at Su Zimo with bloodshot eyes and said slowly, however, at this point of the battle, we have to determine the victor today. I, Yunting, don't want to lose and I'll definitely not lose. If it was before this, Yunting would definitely obtain the Jade Talisman first before fighting Su Zimo. But now that he was struck by Su Zimo's palm, he would have lost if not for the protection of the Ice Soul's silver armor. Given his pride and conceit, he could not accept such an outcome. He had already forgotten about the jade talisman and the heaven and earth-slaying sword arts. Right now, he only had a single thought, to give it his all and use all his strength to defeat Su Zimo. An endless stream of sword chi gathered and the blood-colored sword became more corporeal. Yunting's long hair danced and he seemed to be dyed red under the illumination of the blood-colored sword. I haven't fully controlled the power of this bloodline phenomenon yet. Once released, I won't be able to control it either. Yunting lowered his head slightly and whispered, "You're most likely going to die." There was a hint of pity in Yunting's tone. It was rare for him to meet an opponent like Su Zimo and he truly could not bear to kill the latter. Even if he could not subdue him, he would have liked to befriend him. But now, he had no other choice. Pausing for a moment, Yunting seemed to have made up his mind. Raising his head, he looked at Su Zimo and said firmly, "I'm sorry, I want to win. Don't worry about me." Right then, Tang Zi's voice sounded. Although she was surrounded by danger, she sensed the commotion on Su Zimo's side. She knew that if Su Zimo was still thinking about her and was distracted, he would definitely die if he could not use his full strength. Hit! Suddenly, the bald monk hollered. Bang! Although Tang Zi tried her best to dodge, she was still punched on the shoulder by the bald monk. Crack! 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 The sound of bones cracking was extremely terrifying. Tang Zi's shoulder was shattered by a single punch from the bald monk and her entire arm could not move. Hee hee, how dare you send a voice transmission to your little lover in the midst of our encirclement. The bald monk gave a strange laugh and his attacks turned sharper. Tang Zi was severely injured by the middle-aged Taoist and her strength was greatly reduced. She was struggling against the encirclement of the three of them. Now that her arm was crippled by the bald monk, the situation was turning increasingly dangerous and her life was hanging by a thread. Su Zimo glanced at Tang Zi and retracted his gaze. He then looked at Yunting and said indifferently, "I'm sorry, you can't win." Chapter 2001, Essence Spirit Sword Condensation. Chapter 2001, Essence Spirit Sword Condensation. For Su Zimo, activating his bloodline and releasing his bloodline phenomenon to fight Yunting head-on was naturally the simplest and most direct solution. Furthermore, he believed that with the augmentation of the six-tusked divine elephant divine power, the creation green lotus phenomenon could definitely defeat Yunting's blood sword phenomenon. However, that would merely be a defeat. Su Zimo did not have the confidence to kill a prince. That was because he did not know how many trump cards and treasures Yunting had. If he could not kill Yunting, the creation green lotus would be exposed. Su Zimo had not known Yunting for long. Although this person was proud and conceited, he was honest right from the beginning and did not have any sinister thoughts. However, Su Zimo did not dare to take the gamble. Nobody knew better than him what sort of killing intent the creation green lotus would attract if it was exposed. The scene of his ascension often flashed through his mind and he still had lingering fear. King Yunyu was not the only one attracted by the creation green lotus, there were other immortal king experts as well. Given Su Zimo's current cultivation, he could not withstand a second similar attack. Of course, even without releasing his bloodline phenomenon, he had other methods. Those methods were even more intense and berserk. Su Zimo's gaze was deep and his glabella shone, releasing an extremely terrifying spirit consciousness fluctuation. Essence spirit attack? Sensing something amiss, Yunting guessed Su Zimo's thoughts instantly. However, he did not take it to heart and merely shook his head gently. It's not a bad idea to use an essence spirit's secret skill. However, you're still way too naive. I sensed long ago that your essence spirit realm has already reached the earth immortal realm. However, you might not know that my essence spirit realm has long broken through to the earth immortal realm as well. The moment he said that, Yunting no longer hid and released a tremendous spirit consciousness pressure as well. Level 2 Earth Essence Realm. Essence spirits were the most difficult to cultivate. In the upper world, it was almost impossible for essence spirit cultivation to surpass personal cultivation. Anyone who could surpass a minor personal cultivation realm was already a peerless monster incarnate. There were not many people in the entire divine firmament immortal domain who could surpass 2 minor realms like Yunting. The main reason why Su Zimo could do that was because his essence spirit was formed by the power of the Green Lotus and Dragon Phoenix essence spirits combined with the power of the Prajna Nirvana Sutra. Right now, he was a grade 9 black immortal and his essence spirit cultivation was also at the level 2 earth essence realm. However, with the augmentation of the 6-tusked divine elephant, the power of his essence spirit, body, and bloodline increased by 4 times. Although his essence spirit cultivation did not change much, the power of his essence spirit was already equivalent to the level 3 earth essence realm. Naturally, Yunting could sense the difference. However, he was in no hurry. Yunting smiled faintly. Indeed, the power of your essence spirit is superior to mine. However, you'll still lose if you fight with your essence spirit. That's because no one can defend against my essence spirit sword. Yunting's tone revealed immense confidence. Is that so? Su Zimo's expression was calm and unmoved. A palm-sized scarlet dragon scale slowly floated out from his glabella. It was in the shape of a crescent and was filled with a terrifying aura. Essence Spirit's secret skill, reverse scale. The moment the reverse scale appeared, the entire hall seemed to have frozen. Only the dragon scale floated slowly towards Yunting, emitting a shuddering energy fluctuation. It was as though any power that made contact with the dragon scale would suffer a destructive impact. Even the middle-aged Taoist priest and the other 2 who were attacking Tang Zi revealed wary expressions and retracted their spirit consciousnesses, afraid that they would attract the killing power of the dragon scale. Good, good, good. Yunting had a fearless expression as he nodded repeatedly and shouted, "Since you want to fight with your essence spirit, I'll let you undertake a complete loss today." His glabella opened up and a sword hovered in his consciousness where his essence spirit was. Essence spirit sword. Su Zimo focused his gaze. The essence spirits of any living being were born from their bodies and were not much different from their true forms. Yunting was a human but his essence spirit was a sword. Su Zimo had only seen such a situation in one person. That was his eldest disciple, Biming Shui. Biming Shui's essence spirit, her martial spirit, was a sword. His eldest disciple's talent in the Tao of the sword was unparalleled. But now, Su Zimo saw a second person with an essence spirit sword. Slay! Yunting pointed forward and hollered softly. Swoosh! In his consciousness, Yunting's essence spirit sword released a blood-colored sword beam that was extremely sharp as it slashed towards the reverse scale. The 2 essence spirit secret skills collided instantly without any commotion or sound. However, the moment they collided, Su Zimo and Yunting felt their hearts skip a beat. The blood-colored blade penetrated the reverse scale and descended in Su Zimo's consciousness instantly, slashing towards the Green Lotus essence spirit. Poof! 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 Sensing danger, rays of light spewed out from the 81 lotus holes. The 81 green lotus seeds seemed to have condensed into long swords that struck the blood-colored blade repeatedly. Finally, they dissipated and the Green Lotus essence spirit was not injured at all. On the other side, Yunting's essence spirit sword felt a strange power augmenting his body and he could not dodge at all. Bang! The essence spirit sword trembled violently before shattering, revealing a tiny essence spirit that shone with silver light. It resembled Yunting and retreated a few steps in a flustered manner. When he saw that, Su Zimo was enlightened. Yunting's essence spirit sword had not been cultivated to its limits and his essence spirit had not transformed into a sword completely. Now that it was exposed to the power of the reverse scale, its true form was revealed. At the same time, Su Zimo was secretly alarmed. Anyone who touched the reverse scale of a dragon would die. Up till this point of his cultivation, the only person of the same cultivation realm who could defend against the reverse scale was Yunting. While defending against the reverse scale, the sharpness of Yunting's essence spirit sword descended in his consciousness and threatened his essence spirit. If not for the creation lotus platform, it would have been difficult for his essence spirit to escape unscathed against that sharpness. Actually, Su Zimo knew very well that in terms of the power of essence spirit's secret skills, Yun Ting's blood-colored blade was superior to the reverse scale. However, the power of his essence spirit was a realm above Yun Ting. Furthermore, Yun Ting's attempt to dispel the formation at the entrance of the main hall had taken a huge toll on his essence spirit. Under such circumstances, the two of them merely fought to a draw. Su Zimo was merely surprised. However, Yun Ting was shocked and his heart surged. How was that possible? His essence spirit sword, the blood-colored blade, had failed? What treasure was in Su Zimo's consciousness that could neutralize his blood-colored blade? A fight between essence spirits was way too dangerous. Notwithstanding the fact that his essence spirit sword returned fruitless, even his essence spirit was shaken out of its true form by the dragon scale. Yun Ting was truly shocked by this essence spirit fight. He had not realized that the true terror was yet to come. Chapter 2002, Massive Explosion. Chapter 2002, Massive Explosion. Yun Ting's essence spirit was shaken out of his true form. For a moment, his thoughts were in a mess and he could not react. Under normal circumstances, his bloodline phenomenon should have been formed by now. However, because of the fight between the essence spirit's secret skills, his essence spirit was shaken as well, causing the blood-colored sword behind him to sway slightly without materializing completely. Yun Ting shook his head, as though he wanted to cast his thoughts aside. No matter what, as long as he could condense his bloodline phenomenon, Su Zimo would definitely lose. The moment that thought crossed his mind, Yun Ting felt a strange energy fluctuation and his expression changed. Yun Ting's eyes widened and he looked towards Su Zimo instinctively. Another essence spirit secret skill? Under normal circumstances, ordinary cultivators would only cultivate an essence spirit secret skill at most. That was because even if one cultivated many essence spirit secret skills, it was rare for them to have the chance to release a second one in a battle. The requirement of releasing 2 essence spirit secret skills in succession was way too high. If one's essence spirit was not condensed enough and released 2 secret skills in succession, their essence spirit would collapse before they could kill their opponents. Naturally, Yun Ting cultivated more than one essence spirit secret skill. But now, he had expended a lot of power of his essence spirit to dispel the formation outside the main hall. Thereafter, after the clash with Su Zimo's reverse scale, his essence spirit became extremely weak. Even if he wanted to, he was powerless. Yun Ting was secretly frustrated when he saw Su Zimo condense a second essence spirit secret skill. If he had known earlier, he would have been more cautious in front of the main hall and not been in a hurry to dispel the formation. When he was dispelling the formation, he truly had not expected that someone of the same cultivation realm could force him to such an extent. Su Zimo conjured hand seals repeatedly and the spirit consciousness fluctuation in his glabella intensified. Thereafter, he extended his finger and touched his glabella gently. Crackle. Accompanied by a series of sounds, Su Zimo withdrew a blinding thunder whip from his glabella and it danced wildly in midair. Spirit vanquishing whip. Although Tang Zi was surrounded, her heart skipped a beat when she saw that from the corner of her eye. That was an essence spirit secret skill of the Void Thunder Manual. How did this person know it? Was he also someone from Remnant Knight and had obtained her father's legacy? The spirit vanquishing whip was filled with lightning and emanated a terrifying aura. Even a body of flesh and blood could be whipped into ashes, let alone an essence spirit. Against Su Zimo's second essence spirit secret skill, Yun Ting regained his composure rapidly without any fear in his eyes. If I hadn't expended a lot of essence spirit power to dispel the formation previously, I would be able to dispel this essence spirit secret skill as well. Yun Ting said proudly. Su Zimo did not reply. His eyes seemed to contain thunder as he whipped Yun Ting with the spirit vanquishing whip. Piak. When the spirit vanquishing whip struck Yun Ting, it suddenly vanished. In Yun Ting's consciousness, a whip made of lightning appeared and coiled around his essence spirit rapidly. Lightning flashed and electric arcs spun in a blinding manner. Initially, the spirit-vanquishing whip of the lower worlds did not have such changes and power. However, in the 10 Absolute Hell, Su Zimo obtained the inheritance of the Thunder Emperor, and this essence spirit's secret skill evolved as well. It underwent a complete transformation and was even more lethal. Under normal circumstances, any essence spirit that was coiled by the spirit-vanquishing whip could not survive and would have been destroyed a long time ago. However, Yunting's essence spirit was not injured at all. Ha 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 ha. Yunting's laughter sounded. Although it was a little hoarse, he was still proud and confident. Su Zimo, even a second essence spirit's secret skill won't be able to hurt me. Actually, Su Zimo had already noticed something unusual when the reverse scale shook Yunting's essence spirit out of its true form. Silver light shone on Yunting's essence spirit, as though he was wearing silver armor. It was similar to the Ice Soul silver armor he was wearing, as though there was a connection. In reality, Su Zimo was not wrong. The Ice Soul silver armor was divided into 2 inner and outer armor. Both came from the same person, and the outer armor protected Yunting's body while the inner armor protected his essence spirit. There were many types of dermic treasures that could protect the body. However, dermic treasures that could protect the essence spirit were way too difficult to refine. Every single one of them was priceless. That was the value of the Ice Soul silver armor. With the Ice Soul silver armor, even Earth Immortal experts would have difficulty killing Yunting, let alone Black Immortals. Therefore, Su Zimo did not pause at all after condensing the spirit-vanquishing whip and channeled his essence spirit once more. If one essence spirit's secret skill was not enough, he would use 2. If 2 were not enough, he would use 3. Sanskrit sounded in Su Zimo's mind, as though Buddhas were chanting softly in a majestic manner. His glabella opened once more and a golden Sanskrit word appeared, shining with a Buddhist light that illuminated the void. It crushed towards Yunting as though it was extremely heavy. The Gautama Dermic Seal. The Gautama Dermic Seal was an essence spirit's secret skill from a cultivation technique of the lower worlds, the Great Day Gautama Sutra. Now that it was in the upper world, this essence spirit's secret skill became extremely ordinary. However, because of the Prajna Nirvana Sutra, all the Buddhist cultivation techniques that Su Zimo cultivated underwent a transformation and were augmented by dermic powers. The Gautama Dermic Seal transformed as well. Yunting's expression changed starkly as disbelief filled his eyes. Even with the condensation of his essence spirit, he could only release 2 essence spirit's secret skills in succession. However, Su Zimo, who had ascended from the lower worlds, could release 3. What was that person's essence spirit made of? How was that possible? Only Su Zimo knew that it was all thanks to the Green Lotus essence spirit. In Tianhuang mainland, Su Zimo even released dozens of dermic arts in succession with the help of his Green Lotus essence spirit. Right now, Su Zimo released 3 essence spirit secret skills in succession, shocking the world and attacking Yunting's essence spirit. In Yunting's consciousness, the Ice Soul inner armor appeared to defend against the power of thunder of the spirit-vanquishing whip. At the same time, the Gautama Dermic Seal descended and Yunting's essence spirit could not dodge at all. The spirit-vanquishing whip or Gautama Dermic Seal alone was enough could kill a grade 9 Black Immortal. Right now, the power of the 2 essence spirit secret skills was augmented on Yunting's essence spirit at the same time. Ah! Yunting hugged his head with both hands with a pained expression. Even with the protection of the Ice Soul inner armor, his essence spirit suffered an immense shock. Cracks even appeared on the Ice Soul inner armor. Crack. 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 A chilling intent burst forth from the cracks of the Ice Soul inner armor. The lightning on the spirit-vanquishing whip froze. The Gautama Dermic Seal was filled with frost as well. The lights of the 2 essence spirit's secret skills dimmed rapidly. In the end, the 2 essence spirit's secret skills could not break through the Ice Soul inner armor. Fufufu. Yunting grinned and grit his teeth, gradually regaining his senses. His eyes were bloodshot as he glared at Su Zimo and said slowly, "You still failed." "No. Su Zimo conjured hand seals with both hands and looked at Yunting, saying indifferently, "To begin with, I didn't expect those 3 essence spirit secret skills to kill you." "Then why?" Yunting was about to ask when he could not continue. That was because the blood-colored sword behind him was dissipating rapidly. Although his essence spirit was intact under the protection of the ice soul inner armor, it was still shaken violently and his bloodline phenomenon dissipated as his blood chi fluctuated. Chapter 2003, Incinerating Flames. Chapter 2003, Incinerating Flames. Yunting was a rare paragon in the divine firmament immortal domain. When he saw the bloodline phenomenon behind him dissipate, he realized Su Zimo's motive. On the surface, Su Zimo released 3 essence spirit secret skills in succession to target his essence spirit, but in reality, it was to destroy his bloodline phenomenon. Naturally, Yunting had other trump cards. However, he could not use dermic treasures in the Emperor's tomb and those powerful methods could not be used. Now that his bloodline phenomenon was dispelled, it meant that he could no longer threaten Su Zimo. Of course, both of them had expended a lot of energy up till this point of the battle and Su Zimo released 3 essence spirit secret skills in succession. Yunting believed that Su Zimo was already at the end of the road and could not threaten him with his trump cards used. Something's not right. Right then, an image flashed through Yunting's mind and he was shocked. Suddenly, he recalled that after Su Zimo released the 3 essence spirit secret skills, his fingers were still changing continuously as he conjured a dermic art. Yunting focused his gaze hurriedly and felt that the light before him was a little blinding. The temperature in the hall rose suddenly. 4 balls of flames of different colors rose beside Su Zimo. Golden, black, milky white and scarlet. Although the 4 balls of flames were only the size of a fist, they emitted a violent heat that burned away the surrounding heaven and earth essence chi. "You can still." Yunting clenched his fists and looked at everything in disbelief. Initially, he thought that releasing 3 essence spirit secret skills in succession was Su Zimo's limit. To think that Su Zimo's essence spirit could even channel spirit consciousness and gather essence chi to condense such a powerful immortal art secret skill. The auras released by each of the 4 balls of flames were completely different. The golden flame dharma characteristic was dignified and there seemed to be an ancient Buddha sitting cross-D within. However, the black flame was sinister and filled with fiend chi. As for the milky white flame, it was even stranger, there seemed to be the faint sound of phoenixes. Even with Yunting's experience, he had never heard of such an immortal art or secret skill. Su Zimo stood in midair with 2 balls of flames burning in his eyes. The heat wave surged as though it wanted to devour Yunting and burn him to ashes. At that moment, Su Zimo's aura had already overwhelmed Yunting completely. On the other side, the middle-aged Daoist and the others were shocked as well. Even they had not expected the battle between the 2 monster incarnates to reach such an extent. Furthermore, it was an immortal from the lower worlds who had the upper hand. Yunting felt suffocated and uncomfortable against Su Zimo's aura. However, he still straightened his back and raised his head. There was no fear in his eyes as he shouted, "Su Zimo, you can't defeat me with your methods." Yunting had the ice soul inner armor to protect his essence spirit and outer armor to protect his body. Indeed, ordinary methods could not hurt him. Even if he could not win today, he would definitely not lose. "Is that so?" Su Zimo did not argue and merely said indifferently, "That's good as well. I'll teach you a lesson today." Before his sentence was finished, Su Zimo's hand seals changed once more. The immortal Tao fire, Buddhist Tao fire, Fiend Tao fire and the milky white southern Mingli fire transformed into 4 flames that sped towards Yunting. When they were still in midair, the 4 balls of flames fused together as though they were drawn in by some power, forming a gigantic fireball. Each of the 4 balls of flames released individually could not threaten Yunting. However, after the 4 balls of flames fused, the secret skill transformed completely and its power increased exponentially. Yunting had a grim expression as he glared at the gigantic fireball that was speeding over. He began to activate his Ice Soul Silver armor and his body was covered in a layer of frost. Although the fireball was powerful, the power of the Ice Soul Silver armor could definitely defend against it. Right then, another flame burst forth from Su Zimo's glabella. Essence Spirit Dao Fire. Su Zimo's essence spirit was already extremely weak. When released, the essence spirit fire did not have much power. However, when it landed in the fireball, the secret skill underwent another transformation and turned into the Pankati Dao fire. The flames of the fireball intensified and expanded once more, devouring towards Yunting like a red sun. Yunting was shocked. He had not expected that the power of the fireball would increase to another level the moment it was about to descend. He could even sense the aura of death. Phew! The Pankati Dao fire howled and devoured Yunting in the blink of an eye. The temperature in the hall had already climbed to a terrifying level. The middle-aged Daoist and the others who were fighting at the side were drenched in sweat as well. The three of them exchanged shocked glances. If that Dao fire was released towards them, they would be burned to ashes instantly even if they had 10 lives. Chapter 2004, Slain Paragon. Chapter 2004, Slain Paragon. When he saw that, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat and he was on guard. Yunting noticed the change in the Ice Soul Silver armor and seemed to have realized something. His expression changed as well as he shouted anxiously, "Sister, I haven't lost yet. I don't want to go back." Nobody replied. However, the shards of the Ice Soul Silver armor collided rapidly and formed a pitch-black tunnel on Yunting's body. It was filled with a powerful suction force and wanted to take him away from the Emperor's tomb. A spatial tunnel. Yunting wanted to struggle, but he could not defend against the power of the spatial tunnel behind him. His body was gradually devoured by the tunnel, but he still glared at Su Zimo indignantly. If he had not expended too much of his essence spirit to dispel the formation previously, he would not have been so passive in the essence spirit fight earlier on. The bloodline phenomenon behind him would not be destroyed by Su Zimo. Earlier on, he would not have been reduced to such a sorry state. A single mistake had led to countless more. Su Zimo, it's difficult for me to unleash my combat strength to its peak in this Emperor's tomb and you've got the upper hand. However, don't be smug. You didn't win at all. If we continue fighting, it's still unknown who will win. Yunting's figure almost vanished into the spatial tunnel and only his intermittent voice could be heard. Su Zimo, I'll remember you. I hope that you can cultivate as soon as possible. Don't fall too far behind me. In the future, victory between us will be determined. The void closed and the spatial tunnel vanished. Yunting had already left the Emperor's tomb. Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief when he saw that. Thankfully, Yunting's sister used some secret skill to bring him back. If the battle were to continue, Su Zimo would not be able to hide the secret of his Green Lotus true body any longer. A look of fatigue appeared on Su Zimo's face. Releasing 3 essence spirit secret skills in succession and the release of the Pankati Dao fire was also a huge drain on his essence spirit. If not for the fact that the Green Lotus and Dragon Phoenix essence spirits had fused and he cultivated the Prajna Nirvana Sutra to temper his essence spirit, he would not have been able to do it given his previous essence spirit condensation level. With Yunting's departure, the Jade Talisman was within Su Zimo's reach. However, he did not choose to take the Jade Talisman first. Instead, he turned around and charged towards another battlefield. On the other side, Tang Zi was on the brink of death. Su Zimo fought against Yunting and the three of them attacked Tang Zi like a storm without stopping. Tang Zi's shoulder was shattered and she had more than 10 wounds on her body. Fresh blood flowed and one of her legs was broken. She staggered and could die at any moment. However, Tang Zi pursed her lips expressionlessly. Even though she was in immense pain, she did not make a single sound the entire time. She knew in her heart that the battle between Su Zimo and Yunting was a fight between the top monster incarnates and there was no room for mistakes. If she cried out in pain, Su Zimo would definitely be distracted and there was a high chance he would be killed by Yunting on the spot. Tang Zi felt her head spin and her vision blurred. She truly could not hold on any longer. Scram! Right then, a furious roar sounded like thunder in her ears, containing a calming power. She was invigorated and gradually regained clarity. It was as though a spring breeze had blown past her essence spirit and her consciousness was filled with warm sunlight. Su Zimo made use of the power of the Buddhist Tao to roar in a deafening manner. However, Su Zimo's essence spirit was weak at the moment and the effect of the roar was extremely limited, only able to wake Tang Zi up temporarily. Bang! 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 Su Zimo roared and charged into the battlefield. Raising his arms and legs, he fought against the three paragons, the bald monk, the Iron Tower man and the middle-aged Taoist, causing the sound of flesh clashing to echo. The three paragons were repelled by Su Zimo. The three of them exchanged glances, all of them could see the fear in the other's eyes. Su Zimo had released all his trump cards in such a tragic battle against Yunting, but he still had the strength to fight them head-on. Actually, at that moment, Su Zimo was already at the end of his road. After ascending, there had never been a cultivator of the same cultivation realm who could force him to such an extent. Even so, he could suppress most grade 9 black immortals with his green lotus true body. His essence spirit is weak. Attack his essence spirit. The middle-aged Taoist's expression changed as he quickly saw through Su Zimo's weakness and hollered. In reality, that was the case as well. Su Zimo's essence spirit was extremely weak after activating 3 essence spirit secret skills in succession and releasing the Pankati Dao fire. He could no longer use any essence spirit secret skills. Kill! The middle-aged Taoist's glabella shone and released a violent spirit consciousness fluctuation. He was the first to condense an essence spirit secret skill and charged towards Su Zimo. You must have a death wish. Su Zimo's expression turned cold. Although he could not use his essence spirit secret skill, he had other killing moves. In his consciousness, the creation lotus platform spun slowly and the 81 green lotus seeds transformed into rays of light that rapidly formed a sharp sword that tore through his glabella and sped forward. It was a killing technique targeted at the essence spirit, the green lotus sword. Chi! With a flash of green light, the sharpness of the green lotus sword sliced the middle-aged Taoist's essence spirit secret skill into 2 before killing him. The middle-aged Taoist's expression changed starkly. Sensing the sharpness of the green lotus sword, he turned and fled without hesitation. However, no matter how fast he could not be faster than the green lotus sword. Before long, the green lotus sword entered the back of the middle-aged Taoist's head and penetrated his consciousness. It flew out from his glabella and scattered into green lotus seeds before returning to Su Zimo's consciousness. The green lotus seeds were dim and their power was exhausted after defending against the blood-colored blade and killing the middle-aged Taoist's essence spirit. They required a period of nourishment in the creation lotus platform to recover to their original state. However, the bald monk and the Iron Tower man did not know about the changes. The 2 of them had initially conjured essence spirit secret skills as well. Before they could release them, the middle-aged Taoist was killed by the green lotus sword. The 2 of them were so scared that they dispersed their essence spirit secret skills hurriedly, afraid that they would attract the killing power of the green lotus sword. Monk, stop holding back. Suddenly, the Iron Tower man grinned and a cunning look flashed across his honest face. At this point, if we continue to hold back, we'll probably be killed by this person. That's right. The bald monk nodded as well. Since that's the case, let's join forces and kill this person first before we determine who the jade talisman belongs to. Tang Zi frowned slightly. She had not expected the bald monk and the Iron Tower man to be holding back. But soon, she understood. On the surface, the 4 paragons worked together in harmony. However, the 4 of them were also scheming against one another. The reason why the bald monk and Iron Tower man held back was definitely because they wanted to catch one another off guard during the final fight for the jade talisman. When she attacked the blue-dressed woman, the two of them were far away and did not arrive in time. Now that she thought about it, they might have done it intentionally to make use of her to get rid of another competitor. However, neither of them had expected that Su Zimo's strength was unfathomable. If they held back any longer, they would all die here. Chapter 2005, Settled Dust. Chapter 2005, Settled Dust. The bloodlines of the bald monk and the Iron Tower man surged, and the sound of a tsunami could be heard as their power of blood chi was pushed to its limits. An ancient bell appeared behind the bald monk. It shone with a golden light and was filled with runes that emanated a terrifying aura. A towering mountain appeared behind the Iron Tower man, seemingly able to suppress all living beings with a shocking might. Bloodline phenomenon. Both the bald monk and the Iron Tower man had robust blood chi and shocking physiques. They were strong in melee combat and had cultivated bloodline phenomenons. However, the two of them held back the entire time. It was only after Su Zimo killed the middle-aged Taoist that the two of them realized that they might be killed by him if they continued holding back. Su Zimo, you're already at the end of the road. Don't force yourself. The bald monk was also a monster incarnate and could naturally tell Su Zimo's strength. If it was anyone else, they would not hold back during a battle of that level with Yunting. They must have used up all their trump cards. Don't waste your breath on him. Let's kill him first lest anything else happens. The Iron Tower man said in a deep voice. Ha 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 ha. Su Zimo reared his head in laughter, as though he had heard the funniest thing in the world. The two of you think you can kill me? Su Zimo glared at the two of them with a disdainful expression and said slowly, I can't kill Yunting, but you think I can't kill you guys? The reason why he did not use the bloodline of his Green Lotus true body the entire time was because he was worried that it would be exposed. That was because he was not confident that he could keep Yunting in the Emperor's tomb. In reality, as Su Zimo had expected, Yunting indeed had a trump card. There were even other experts guarding him and he was taken away from the Emperor's tomb. However, it was different for the bald monk and the Iron Tower man. Although they were from the four immortal sects, their statuses were worlds apart compared to Yunting. Even grade 9 black immortals and rare paragons were merely servants in the four immortal sections. They did not have dermic treasures like the Ice Soul silver armor nor any experts leaving behind trump cards to protect them. The moment Su Zimo said that, his killing intent was already triggered. When the bald monk and the Iron Tower man saw how calm Su Zimo was and how fearless he seemed, they felt uneasy. However, now that the two of them had already released their bloodline phenomenons, they were in a difficult position. Furthermore, the Jade Talisman was right before them. Were the two of them going to give up the Jade Talisman without fighting? At that thought, the two of them exchanged glances and made the same decision. They were going to attack with all their might without holding back. As long as they could kill Su Zimo, Tang Zi would not be a threat. Kill! The bald monk and Iron Tower man roared at the same time and released their bloodline phenomenons, charging towards Su Zimo with sharp gazes and killing intent. Bloodline phenomenon? Su Zimo murmured softly with an indifferent expression. He merely glanced casually at the bloodline phenomenon behind the bald monk and the Iron Tower man before retracting his gaze. Splash! The sound of a tsunami echoed from Su Zimo's body as well. It was even stronger than the two of them and was deafening. It was as though a galaxy had poured down from the 9 heavens and smashed onto the ground with a deafening bang. Immediately after, a jade green lotus grew behind Su Zimo. The lotus leaves were wide and its stem was upright. The flower bud at the top trembled slightly and could blossom at any moment. This is... The eyes of the bald monk and the Iron Tower man widened as they looked up at the green lotus in shock. Both of them felt an unimaginable pressure. Against the green lotus, the two of them felt incomparably tiny, as though they could not even compare to a single lotus leaf on the green lotus. The green lotus soared into the skies and was filled with a chaotic aura. The flower bud lowered its head slightly, as though it was looking down at them. The bloodline phenomenons behind the two of them began to sway and show signs of dissipating. That seems to be the creation green lotus. The bald monk's voice trembled with a shocked expression. Tang Zi was shocked as well. Although she had seen Su Zimo conjure the green lotus, she did not recognize its origin. The creation green lotus was the only one in the world. Even immortal kings would not let go of such an utmost treasure. Right then, the flower bud on the green lotus suddenly blossomed and spilled endless light. The green lotus swayed gently, seemingly excited. The creation green lotus did not sway much and was almost imperceptible. However, that slight movement caused the two bloodline phenomenons behind the bald monk and the Iron Tower man to collapse, turning into endless blood chi that dissipated into the world. The two of them shuddered as though they were struck by lightning, and blood oozed from the corners of their mouths. Escape. Without hesitation, the two of them turned and fled. Su Zimo sneered and his green lotus phenomenon shone brightly. Strange light spread like sharp swords and pierced the two of them instantly. Thump. The two of them fell to the ground and were riddled with holes as blood gushed out, dying on the spot. After doing that, Su Zimo heaved a sigh of relief. With their deaths, there was no chance of the green lotus true body being exposed. The battle was over and the dust had settled. Su Zimo relaxed and actually felt a little dizzy. His body swayed slightly and the green lotus phenomenon could not hold on either and dissipated rapidly. He was almost completely exhausted from the battle. If not for the fact that the green lotus true body had shocking regeneration capabilities, he would have collapsed a long time ago. It's over? Tang Zi looked at the messy battlefield in disbelief. At this point of the battle, apart from the two of them, there was no one else alive in the main hall, leaving only corpses on the ground. Tang Zi took out a few immortal herbs and consumed them, recovering her injuries and stamina slowly. Given her physique and bloodline, she would be able to recover her mobility quickly as long as she had time to rest and recuperate. Hurry and get that jade talisman and tidy up the battlefield. We'll leave this place before anything else happens. Tang Zi urged. For some reason, she had an indescribable feeling. It was like a whim or an assassin's sixth sense, as though something bad was about to happen. Su Zimo nodded and took a deep breath. Leaping up, he grabbed the jade talisman in his palm. There were no other changes throughout the entire process. Su Zimo stared at the jade talisman for a moment and scanned it carefully with his spirit consciousness, but he could not find anything. What's the secret behind this jade talisman that attracted so many sects, factions, and paragons to fight for it? Su Zimo asked with a frown. I don't know either. Tang Zi said, I reckon that apart from Yunting and a few other cultivators who entered the Emperor's tomb, most of them don't know the secret of the jade talisman. The only thing that could be certain was that this jade talisman was related to the immortal emperor buried in the Emperor's tomb. Chapter 2006, Library. Chapter 2006, Library. Divine Firmament Mainland, Zixian Immortal Kingdom. Capital, Palace Library. The city walls of the capital were thousands of feet tall. The library was 90,000 feet tall and was the most striking building in the capital. It was also one of the emblems of the entire Zixian Immortal Kingdom. Apart from Divine Firmament Palace, the library of the Zixian Immortal Kingdom was the second tallest building in the entire Divine Firmament Immortal Domain. The library was all-encompassing and involved cultivation techniques, secret skills, dermic treasures, elixirs, tempering, various regions, trichiliocosm, ancient ruins, legends. It contained everything. There had long been rumors in the Divine Firmament Immortal Domain that the library of the Zixian Immortal Kingdom was the place with the most books in the 9 Firmament Immortal Domain and even the entire heavenly world. Standing on the top floor of the library, one could see the endless capital of the Zixian Immortal Kingdom and the mountains and rivers. At that moment, a woman stood on the top floor of the library. Her long hair was tied up with a ribbon and draped casually behind her back. She wore a faint green dress that revealed her slender figure perfectly. A gentle breeze blew, sweeping a few strands of black hair across the woman's face. The woman was oblivious to it and continued looking down at an ancient book in her hands with a focused expression, as though she was completely immersed in it. Although she was only wearing plain clothes, her beauty surpassed all the other makeup in the world. Even though she was motionless, she exuded a refined and noble aura. The woman held a scroll and stood against the wind. Her skirt fluttered gently in a graceful and beautiful manner, as though she was one with the entire library. Suddenly, a strange energy fluctuation came from an empty space on the top floor. Immediately after, the void collapsed, revealing a dark spatial tunnel. As though she did not notice it, the woman looked at the book in her hands intently. A moment later, a black figure fell out of the spatial tunnel and landed on the top floor in a sorry state. The spatial tunnel behind him closed and vanished. That figure was Yunting, who was brought back from the emperor's tomb. The woman did not turn back and was still focused on the book in her hands, as though there was nothing in the world that could attract her attention or look better than the words in the book. Sister. Yunting stood up and clenched his fists, shouting in the direction of the woman with an indignant expression. When she heard that voice, the woman was in a daze. She paused for a moment before reacting. Frowning slightly, she said with her back facing Yunting, "Since you're back, return to the residence and cultivate in peace." When Yunting saw that the woman did not seem to care about him at all, he felt even more aggrieved and indignant. He took a few steps forward and shouted again, "Sister, I didn't lose at all. Why did you bring me back?" "You didn't lose?" The woman still did not look at Yunting as she shook her head. "The Ice Soul silver armor that I gave you is crippled both internally and externally. Yet, you claim that you didn't lose?" Yunting argued, "So what if they were crippled? I wasn't severely injured nor hurt. If not for the Ice Soul silver armor, would you have been able to return alive?" The woman's tone was cold and stern. Yunting was still indignant and shouted, "A dermic treasure is also a part of one's strength. Which rule states that dermic treasures are not allowed in a life and death battle? If you hadn't brought me back, I would have definitely defeated that person and helped you get your jade talisman." When she heard that, the woman was touched. A gentle look flashed through her eyes as she finally turned around and looked at Yunting. Just as the woman was about to speak, she could not help but laugh when she saw Yunting. The woman's smile was charming and instantly, the surrounding skies seemed to brighten up. At that moment, Yunting was covered in dust. His clothes were burned and his hair was thin. His cheeks were pitch black like a black fire rod. "Sister, how dare you laugh at me?" Instantly, Yunting panicked and his face flushed red. However, it could not be seen clearly beneath his charcoal black skin. This younger brother of hers was a prince of the Zhixian Immortal Kingdom and a peerless monster incarnate who was invincible among his peers. He had never been in such a sorry state. All of this was because Yunting wanted to fight for the jade talisman for her. At that thought, the woman's gaze softened. She put down the book in her hands and walked forward slowly, raising her hand to brush Yunting's cheek gently. A faint white light appeared on the woman's fingertip. The white light circulated around Yunting's body and washed away the charcoal on his body in the blink of an eye. Some of Yunting's wounds began to heal as well. The woman took out a long dress and draped it on Yunting, saying gently, "I guess that you sneaked into the emperor's tomb because of me. However, you're not allowed to do this in the future. Father doesn't have many descendants and you're the youngest and most talented. If anything happens to you, he'll be heartbroken. Furthermore, among these siblings, you're the one I like the most." Yunting lowered his head slightly and mumbled, "I know. You and father have taken care of me since I was young. However, I've never ever given you a gift." In front of the woman, Yunting no longer had the cold and arrogant aura as he did in the emperor's tomb. Instead, he became more obedient and revealed the demeanor of a child from time to time. After all, he was only 200 years old, equivalent to 3 or 4 years old among mortals. Of course, Yunting would only reveal such childish naivety in front of this woman. In front of outsiders, even his father and other brothers, he was also Prince Yunting, a rare paragon who looked down on the world. When Yunting lost his mother when he was young, apart from his father, his sister was the only one who accompanied him when he was young. In his heart, his sister was the closest person to him. Otherwise, he would not have ventured deep into the danger zone to retrieve the jade talisman personally as a gift for his sister. Yunting said, "You've always liked to study, sister. I heard that this jade talisman is related to a taboo mystic classic and wanted to help you get it. It's just a connection. Even if you can obtain the jade talisman, you might not be able to obtain the taboo mystic classic. This jade talisman is truly not worth the risk." The woman looked at Yunting and said softly, "Even a true taboo mystic classic is less than 1,000th of you, let alone a jade talisman." "Sister," Yunting called out softly with teary eyes. "You're still crying even though you're already so old." The woman smiled. "Who's crying?" Yunting blushed and pulled up his sleeves to wipe his eyes messily. He said angrily, "Sister, even if you didn't bring me back, that person won't be able to hurt me." He felt even more indignant at the thought of Su Zimo. "That person could even cripple the Ice Soul silver armor I gave you. How do you know he doesn't have other trump cards?" The woman asked instead. "Definitely not," Yunting blurted. However, his tone softened quickly as he muttered, "That person is only a grade 9 black immortal. He must be at the end of his road after releasing 3 essence spirit secret skills and a powerful secret skill in succession. He shouldn't have any other methods." The woman frowned slightly before reacting and asking, "You mean to say that you were defeated by a single person? A black immortal at that?" Chapter 2007, Infinite Era. Chapter 2007, Infinite Era. The woman knew Yunting's combat strength the best. Almost no one of the same cultivation realm was a match for her younger brother. Although Yunting was young, he had fought countless battles over the years. She had once brought Yunting around the divine firmament immortal domain personally. He looked at the mountains and rivers, looked up at the starry skies, comprehended heaven and earth and fought for an entire 20 years against the paragons of the aristocratic families, disciples of sex and royalty without suffering a single defeat. Although Yunting was not old, he was already famous throughout the world. The woman had not expected that Yunting would lose to a grade 9 black immortal in a one-on-one fight. At the thought of Su Zimo, Yunting was still indignant and said with an upset expression, "He's someone who ascended from the lower worlds and has an ordinary bloodline. If not for the fact that I expended too much of my essence spirit to dispel the formation, I would have definitely defeated him." The woman's expression turned solemn as she said in a deep voice, "Little brother, you must not underestimate anyone from the lower worlds. You should know that there was once somebody from the lower worlds who was invincible in the divine firmament and caused a huge ruckus." "Feng Cantian?" Yunting asked. The woman nodded. "If he could be conferred the title of king back then, even our father's reputation would not be able to compare to him. Additionally, there's news that Feng Cantian has reappeared." "Ah." Yunting was shocked and asked hurriedly, "Wasn't Feng Cantian's Dao fruit crippled? He's not dead?" The woman said, "It's said that Feng Cantian's Dao fruit was shattered and his body was pinned by the execution saber and suppressed for hundreds of thousands of years. However, the moment he broke free, he displayed his might and crushed Absolute Thunder City, killing 10 perfected immortals before leaving." At the mention of Feng Cantian, be it in her words or eyes, the woman revealed a hint of admiration. Even someone as proud and conceited as Yunting was shocked when he heard that and could only mutter softly, "Such methods are truly." After pondering for a moment, the woman continued, "Apart from Feng Cantian, there's an immortal king in the green firmament immortal domain who ruled over a territory and ascended from the lower worlds." Yunting said, "However, there are too few of them. After so many years, there are only a few of them." The woman said, "You should know how cruel the environment is for those of the lower worlds. They don't have any cultivation resources or experts to protect them. They don't even have a place to stay. It's already very difficult for those of the lower worlds to survive, let alone cultivate. Yunting remained silent. He knew that his sister was right. If he was placed in such a cruel environment, he would definitely not have his current accomplishments. Anyone who can ascend from the lower worlds is a monster incarnate. The woman continued, for example, those who have passed the 4 of 9 heavenly tribulation might not lose to you in terms of potential and talent. It's just because your backgrounds are different. Pausing for a moment, she said slowly, there's something more important you have to remember. You have many things different from those of the lower worlds. Your background, bloodline, talent, endowment, status, but you have one thing in common. Be it you or them, you only have a single life. If he lost his life, his status, reputation and fame would vanish into thin air. When Yunting saw the stern expression on the woman's face, he smiled. Sister, I didn't underestimate that person. Not only that, I even admire him a lot. Initially, I wanted to subdue him and take him under my wing. In the end. At that point, Yunting was a little embarrassed and could not continue. The woman smiled gently and shook her head. How can someone like that bow down to others so easily? Right, speaking of which, this person seems to be fated with me. Yunting seemed to have recalled something. Just as he was about to say it, he paused and rolled his eyes, saying mysteriously, Sister, guess? Pondering for a moment, the woman smiled. It's not hard to guess if it is something related to you. Legend has it that the heaven and earth slaying sword arts are in the lower worlds. Since that person is from the lower worlds, it's likely he knows either the heaven or earth slaying sword arts. Indeed, nothing can be hidden from you, sister. Yunting laughed as well. However, you're wrong about one thing, sister. This person knows both the heaven and earth slaying sword arts. The woman glanced at Yunting and asked in a seemingly casual manner, do you want me to help you snatch the 2 sword arts? How can that do? Yunting said hurriedly, one day, I'll definitely defeat him and retrieve the 2 sword arts personally. The woman nodded internally when she heard that reply. What she said earlier was just a test. If Yunting agreed to it, it would mean that he was completely defeated and would not even dare to fight that person again. But now, Yunting's remark made the woman feel relieved. As long as Yunting was sharp, the setbacks he suffered today would make him even stronger. The woman extended her palm and waved gently in Yunting's direction. Yunting's consciousness suddenly opened up and a shattered silver armor flew out. It was the Ice Soul inner armor that was shattered by Su Zimo's 3 Essence Spirit secret skills. Sister, the inner armor is already shattered. What else do you need it for? Yunting mumbled. It's good that it's broken. You'll break through to the Earth Immortal realm soon, I'll forge another one for you. The woman said as she received the inner armor. The woman's finger brushed past the inner armor gently. She focused on the few burn marks on the inner armor and said in a deep voice, these are marks of the spirit vanquishing whip. That's right, that person's essence spirit's secret skill is a whip filled with lightning. Yunting said hurriedly. The woman was puzzled. This is Feng Santian's ultimate technique. Why would it appear on him? The woman sensed the remnant aura on the shattered inner armor and said, there's another essence spirit secret skill of the Buddhist monasteries. I can't guess what it is exactly. Describe the situation of that secret skill. Yunting described the scene briefly. Great Day Gautama Sutra and Gautama Dharmic Seal? The woman frowned slightly. That person has extremely deep attainments in Buddhism. However, this is a cultivation technique from the lower worlds after all. How can it be so powerful? She had read a lot of books and knew a lot. Therefore, many things could be deduced from the clues left behind by the inner armor. However, at that moment, she could not understand how an essence spirit's secret skill from the lower worlds could release such power. The woman shook her head and continued, that person even released a reverse scale secret skill of the dragon race. There's definitely something strange about his essence spirit to be able to release 3 essence spirit secret skills in succession. According to Yunting's description, he had a strong physique but ordinary bloodline. The greatest possibility was the barbarian race. However, the essence spirit of the barbarian race was the weakest point and could not be so condensed and pure. Given the woman's experience, she could not guess Su Zimo's background right away. How could there be somebody who cultivated the heaven and earth slaying sword arts, comprehended the spirit vanquishing whip, had extremely high attainments in Buddhism, could release a secret skill of the dragon race and even fight against Yunting physically? The strange thing was that such a monster incarnate had an ordinary bloodline? Could it be? The woman's heart skipped a beat as she vaguely thought of a possibility. When Yunting saw that the woman was silent, he felt bored and leaned forward, pointing to the book in her hands. "Sister, what are you looking at? Why are you so engrossed?" The woman's thoughts were interrupted by Yunting and she did not continue thinking. She closed the book and revealed the title to Yunting with a smile. "It's nothing much. It's just some legends." There were 2 ancient words written on the scroll, Infinite Era. Chapter 2008, Catastrophe. Chapter 2008, Catastrophe. The Emperor's Tomb. The main hall of the Immortal Emperor's Palace. Putting away the jade talisman, Su Zimo collected the storage bags of Feng Xian and the paragons of the 4 immortal sections. It had to be said that there were indeed some good things in the storage bags of these paragons. However, what truly interested Su Zimo was a beast hide. This was what Su Zimo found in Feng Xian's consciousness while retrieving his storage bag. The fact that it was hidden in a secluded place like the consciousness was definitely important. Su Zimo opened the beast hide and took a look. At the edge were the words Divine Elephant Breathing Technique. After pondering for a moment, Su Zimo guessed that this was a cultivation technique cultivated by Feng Xian. Feng Xian's combat strength was not weak. Even if Su Zimo were to face him, it would take some effort without revealing his green lotus true body. Feng Xian was equivalent to being killed by the combined forces of Su Zimo, Yunting, and Tang Zi, 3 top black immortals. Although Feng Xian was struck by the time saber and lost 60,000 years of lifespan, he could still receive Yunting's heaven-slaying sword qi and his blood qi was still robust. The reason for that was this divine elephant breathing technique. Let's share their belongings. Su Zimo tidied up the storage bags and came before Tang Zi. Tang Zi glanced at it and said indifferently, "Take that beast hide with you. The rest is mine." Stunned, Su Zimo quickly understood. Tang Zi must have seen that he was interested in the divine elephant breathing technique and wanted to give it up. On the surface, Tang Zi took more things. However, in reality, she was doing Su Zimo a favor. Su Zimo was hesitant. Although he was interested in the divine elephant breathing technique, Feng Xian died in Tang Zi's hands in the end. Logically speaking, this cultivation technique should be given to Tang Zi. "You don't have to think too much," Tang Zi said. "His divine elephant technique conflicts with my immortal whale cultivation technique and can't be cultivated at the same time." The immortal whale was the overlord of the deep sea. The divine elephant was a divine being of the land. There were many conflicts between the two. "Thank you very much." Su Zimo cupped his fists and did not decline. When Feng Xian released his bloodline phenomenon, the phantom of the 6-tusked divine elephant appeared and was of the same origin as his innate divine power. Su Zimo was also wondering if he could cause some changes to the 6-tusked divine strength by cultivating the divine elephant breathing technique. Now was not the time to cultivate. Su Zimo put away the beast hide and gave the rest of the items to Tang Zi. Right then, Tang Zi suddenly asked, "Why do you know about the spirit vanquishing whip? Who imparted it to you? Who exactly are you?" There was no need to hide the fact that he was from Tianhuang mainland from Tang Zi. Just as Su Zimo was about to reply, he frowned and his expression changed. Something was amiss. The surroundings were way too quiet. Initially, the main hall was filled with the sounds of killing and shouting. Unknowingly, those voices had vanished. It was silent outside the main hall as well. The uneasiness in Tang Zi's heart intensified. Su Zimo looked around with a grim expression. The otherworldly soldiers in the hall were still densely packed. However, for some reason, they seemed to be frozen and did not move at all. The strange thing was that the red lights in the eyes of the otherworldly soldiers flickered as though they could extinguish at any moment. Thud. Suddenly, a sound came from outside the main hall, as though something had landed on the stone steps. It was neither loud nor soft. However, it was extremely clear in the silent hall. Su Zimo and Tang Zi did not feel anything unusual when they heard that sound. However, the otherworldly soldiers in the hall shuddered. What happened? Su Zimo sent a voice transmission with his spirit consciousness. Tang Zi shook her head gently. Thud. The strange voice sounded once more, and it was even closer to the main hall. The otherworldly soldiers in the hall shuddered once more. Su Zimo released his spirit consciousness, wanting to find another way out of the hall. However, the main hall was sealed and filled with restrictions, as though there was only a single way out. Thud. The strange voice sounded once more, but Su Zimo ignored it and continued surveying his surroundings. Suddenly, he noticed that Tang Zi's expression was strange as she glared at the entrance of the hall in a frightening manner. Su Zimo spun around and looked towards the entrance of the hall. Unknowingly, a figure had appeared there. The person looked like an old man with a pitch-black walking stick in his hands. His black robe reached the ground and was made of an unknown material that looked strange. The old man was smiling at Su Zimo and Tang Zi. His face was filled with wrinkles and his smile was sinister and terrifying. Su Zimo's spirit consciousness scanned the old man countless times, but he could not sense the latter's cultivation realm. However, Tang Zi's expression darkened. Who are you? Su Zimo asked in a deep voice. The black-robed old man did not reply and raised his walking stick before lowering it rapidly. Thud. The strange sound rang. So, the sound earlier on came from the black-robed old man's walking stick. This time round, the black-robed old man suddenly opened his mouth. The moment he opened his mouth, the corners of his mouth split. His head seemed like it was about to split open. His expression changed. Right then, the black-robed old man took a deep breath. Immediately after, the otherworldly soldiers at the front fell to the ground one after another, and the red light in their eyes was sucked into the black-robed old man's mouth. Be it the black immortal otherworldly soldiers or earth immortal otherworldly generals, none of them were spared. It's a ghost immortal. Tang Zi said slowly. Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat. Not long after he entered the emperor's tomb, Tang Zi mentioned to him about ghost immortals. It could be said that ghost immortals were existences in the emperor's tomb that must not be provoked. Anyone targeted by ghost immortals would definitely be doomed. The otherworldly soldiers were formed because the souls of experts did not disperse and did not enter reincarnation. They were fused with many grievances and were gradually formed. One could only become a ghost immortal after cultivating sentience. It could be said that these otherworldly soldiers were food for the ghost immortals. Gradually, Su Zimo understood why it was silent outside the hall. That was because the otherworldly soldiers that charged out had already been devoured by the ghost immortal. The formation at the entrance of the main hall was dispelled and countless otherworldly soldiers surged out. For the ghost immortal, it was a feast. Prepare to escape. Be careful. Just as Tang Zi's imagination was running wild, Su Zimo's voice sounded in her mind. What are you doing? Tang Zi was alarmed and asked hurriedly. Su Zimo did not reply. Suddenly, a pair of golden wings appeared behind him and he released his innate divine power. Turning into a golden streak of light, he sped out of the hall. Trying to flee? The ghost immortal cackled and an evil glint shone in his eyes. In a flash, he blocked Su Zimo at an astonishing speed that was even faster than the latter. Chapter 2009, Desperate Situation. Chapter 2009, Desperate Situation. Arriving before Su Zimo, the black-robed old man tapped his walking stick gently with a strange sound. Su Zimo shuddered and his essence spirit shuddered, as though it was about to leave his body. The creation lotus platform spun slowly and rays of light spewed out from the lotus cave, nourishing the green lotus essence spirit and allowing Su Zimo to sober up rapidly. The black-robed old man frowned slightly. Initially, he thought that his attack would definitely disperse Su Zimo's soul. Unexpectedly, Su Zimo was only dazed for a moment before returning to normal and continued speeding towards the entrance. Humph. The black-robed old man harumphed coldly with a cold gaze. Leaning forward slightly, he took a deep breath in Su Zimo's direction. Phew. From the black-robed old man's mouth came a whimpering sound that was extremely terrifying, like a child crying. The next moment, Su Zimo's body swayed and his consciousness blurred. His green lotus essence spirit turned hazy and showed signs of collapsing. What was even more frightening was that the green lotus essence spirit was not under Su Zimo's control and floated outside, as though it was drawn in by some power. Ma. Ni. Pa. Suddenly, the images of Buddhas appeared in Su Zimo's consciousness and he chanted ancient Sanskrit. In his consciousness, a golden light shone brightly and reverberated with a vast and dignified power that was deafening. That was the benefit of cultivating the Prajna Nirvana Sutra. This cultivation technique of the Buddhist monasteries was a taboo mystic classic. It was a supreme dharmic formulation for spirit refinement and possessed unimaginable might. Up till this point of his cultivation, the increase in Su Zimo's combat strength was not obvious. However, it protected his essence spirit countless times. Back then, the might of the Prajna Nirvana Sutra was evident when it could fuse the dragon phoenix and green lotus essence spirits. But now, the Prajna Nirvana Sutra was not perfected and there were still sutras from 2 tripod walls that had yet to surface. The power currently revealed by this taboo mystic classic was only the tip of the iceberg. The green lotus essence spirit calmed down after it was enveloped by the golden light and became pure once more. However, the Buddhist light could not purge away the strange suction power in his consciousness. The green lotus essence spirit was still drawn in by that power and wanted to leave its shell. Suddenly, the creation lotus platform shone brightly with a resplendent glow as it soared into the air. The 9 circles of 81 petals closed rapidly and enveloped the green lotus essence spirit, severing the suction force completely. Su Zimo was invigorated and the rock wings behind him flapped. Turning into a golden streak of light, he charged out of the main hall and fled into the distance. The black-robed old man frowned. Initially, he thought that he would definitely be able to suck Su Zimo's soul over with that single breath. Unexpectedly, Su Zimo seemed to be unaffected and escaped after a slight pause, catching him off guard. When he saw that Su Zimo had already escaped far away, the black-robed old man thought for a moment and did not chase after him. Instead, he turned around and smiled at Tang Zi in the hall. Although one of them escaped, there was another one here. Although the souls of otherworldly soldiers were strong, they could not compare to the freshness of Tang Zi. For the ghost immortal, Tang Zi's soul was the true delicacy. He. The black-robed old man laughed sinisterly and walked slowly towards Tang Zi. Tang Zi was severely injured after being surrounded by 4 paragons. Although she managed to recover her mobility after recuperating for a while, it was impossible for her to fight the black-robed old man. Even at her peak, she would not be a match for the ghost immortal, let alone the fact that she was injured right now. The ghost immortals in the Emperor's tomb were tainted by the power of the curse and could not even be touched. How could anybody fight them? Damn thing, what's that stupid smile for? Right then, a sneer sounded from behind the black-robed old man. Turning back, the black-robed old man saw that Su Zimo had returned and was standing outside the main hall, looking at him with a mocking and provocative expression. The black-robed old man was enraged. At the same time, Tang Zi understood Su Zimo's intentions. The reason why Su Zimo left first was not because he wanted to abandon her here. Su Zimo wanted to lure the black-robed old man away. When Su Zimo saw that the black-robed old man did not chase after him, he deliberately provoked the latter by returning. Although the black-robed old man was sentient, he was far less mature than those experienced experts. He was enraged by Su Zimo's provocation. "Ignorant ant, do you really think that I can't kill you?" The black-robed old man glared at Su Zimo with rage in his eyes. Countless menacing faces appeared on his black robes and roared at Su Zimo. Suddenly, Tang Zi felt disgusted. If she was killed by humans and her soul was dispersed, at least she would die a clean death. However, if she was devoured by the black-robed old man, her face would appear on this ghost immortal and she would become one of those menacing faces. Abandoning Tang Zi, the black-robed old man slammed his walking stick heavily on the ground and soared into the air, charging towards Su Zimo. Without hesitation, Su Zimo turned and fled. His current strength was not enough to fight against this ghost immortal. Boo! Boo! The menacing faces of the black-robed old man fell off one after another, turning into menacing ghost faces that chased after Su Zimo like vengeful ghosts. In the blink of an eye, Su Zimo and the black-robed old man charged out of the immortal emperor's palace. You! Tang Zi was anxious and swallowed another handful of elixirs. Before the medicinal effects could dissipate, she rushed out. However, by the time she rushed out of the immortal emperor's palace, Su Zimo and the black-robed old man were long gone. Tang Zi clenched her fists with a conflicted expression. She knew in her heart that Su Zimo could have escaped initially. He returned to lure the black-robed old man away because he wanted to save her. She also knew that Su Zimo was most likely doomed. There were no living beings in the emperor's tomb that could escape the pursuit of the ghost immortal. Tang Zi took a deep breath and judged the direction before giving chase. Su Zimo and the black-robed old man moved at an extremely fast speed one after another. However, as time passed by, Su Zimo could not hold on any longer. After all, he had expended too much stamina in the battle against Yunting and the four paragons. Even with the help of the extreme speed divine power, his speed gradually slowed down. However, the many ghost faces behind him closed in continuously and howled, letting out shuddering wails. "I told you, you can't escape." Before long, the black-robed old man's voice sounded in Su Zimo's ears. It was as though someone had blown a cold breath into his ears. Instantly, Su Zimo's hairs stood on end. Without hesitation, he summoned the Hell Suppression Tripod and shielded it behind him. However, a menacing ghost face penetrated the Hell Suppression Tripod and struck his back heavily. Although the Hell Suppression Tripod was strong and indestructible, it could not defend against essence spirits and souls. However, the ghost immortal was condensed with souls from head to toe. The ghost faces he released also possessed the power of souls. Bang! Su Zimo shuddered and spat out a mouthful of black blood. An extremely terrifying power burst forth from the ghost face and surged into Su Zimo's body, engulfing his limbs, bones and organs. The coldness was chilling to the bones and Su Zimo could not help but shudder. His face was pale and his lips were purplish as he staggered forward. Even walking became difficult, let alone movement techniques. "I'm probably going to die in the Emperor's tomb today." Su Zimo's eyelids were heavy and his vision turned blurry as he sighed internally. He had already used up all his trump cards and was on the brink of death. Now, even the Hell Suppression Tripod could not save him. Chapter 2010, Soul Lantern. Chapter 2010, Soul Lantern. Hee hee. The black-robed old man's laughter sounded once more. "Stop struggling. Even if I don't attack, you're dead. The power of the curse of the Emperor's tomb has already seeped into your organs and bones after being struck by my ghost face. You're already a dead man, hee hee hee." When the black-robed old man realized that Su Zimo was already a bird in a cage, he was no longer anxious and merely followed closely behind Su Zimo, smelling the scent of this fresh soul with an intoxicated expression. Su Zimo bit his tongue gently and tried his best to stay awake. Under normal circumstances, their cultivation realms were very low and the power of the curse would not seep into their bodies after entering the emperor's tomb. That was the reason why they had the chance to purge it and survive. Once the curse of the emperor's tomb seeped into his flesh, he would be in danger. Let alone seep into his organs and bones. However, the black-robed old man was only half right. The power of the curse of the emperor's tomb had indeed seeped into Su Zimo's flesh and tainted his organs and bones. But, as though it was blocked by some power, it could not continue deeper. Su Zimo did not give up. Gritting his teeth, he continued forward. However, the black-robed old man became impatient. Let's see how much longer you can last. The black-robed old man sneered and his black robes swayed. Hundreds of ghost faces fell and flew towards Su Zimo, drowning him instantly. The ghost faces opened their mouths and bared their sharp teeth, biting Su Zimo. With every bite, the green lotus essence spirit dimmed. Without waiting for the black-robed old man to attack, those hungry ghost-like faces alone could devour Su Zimo cleanly. Right then, Su Zimo's heart skipped a beat as he recalled something. He took out a jade talisman from his storage bag and held it in his palm. The jade talisman emitted a glow that enveloped him. Ah! 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 The ghost faces that were initially gnawing on Su Zimo released their bites one after another as though they were in immense pain. They let out tragic cries and turned to flee. In the blink of an eye, the ghost faces flew out of the radius of the jade talisman's light. Green smoke billowed from the ghost faces and their auras were clearly much weaker. Su Zimo obtained a rare breather and could not help but perk up, looking at the black-robed old man with widened eyes. The black-robed old man's expression darkened. When he saw the light emitted by the jade talisman, he was clearly wary. However, he did not stop and said slowly, "Do you think that this thing can stop me?" The black-robed old man approached continuously and arrived at the edge of the jade talisman's radius. He paused for a moment before striding in. Sizzle! The light of the jade talisman enveloped the black-robed old man and let out a series of strange sounds. However, it was clear that his foundation was not injured. As the two of them approached, Su Zimo suddenly raised his hand and threw the jade talisman in his hands towards the black-robed old man. The black-robed old man extended his walking stick and flicked it gently, knocking the jade talisman to the ground. He did not stop and continued walking towards Su Zimo, getting closer and closer. Seemingly flustered, Su Zimo took out a pile of dermic treasures from his storage bag and threw them towards the black-robed old man. The black-robed old man had a mocking expression as he waved his walking stick casually and knocked down the dermic treasures one after another. He did not notice that among the dermic treasures, there was one that Su Zimo did not touch with his hands. Instead, it was wrapped with robes and threw out among the many dermic treasures. It was a dim bronze lantern that looked ordinary. The black-robed old man waved his walking stick casually and struck the bronze lantern. However, he suddenly shuddered and his expression changed. His eyes widened with fear and his body trembled uncontrollably with increasingly stronger convulsions. To think that this lantern is actually in your hands. The black-robed old man's voice trembled. He waved the walking stick in his hands vigorously, as though he wanted to throw the bronze lantern off. However, the bronze lantern seemed to be stuck to the walking stick and could not be flung down. What Su Zimo thought of earlier on was not the jade talisman, but this bronze lantern. Previously, he merely touched the bronze lantern and his essence spirit was almost absorbed. If not for the Buddhas that appeared and chanted the Prajna Nirvana Sutra, he would have been killed by a bronze lantern. At the bottom of the bronze lantern was the word soul. Therefore, Su Zimo guessed that the bronze lantern might have something to do with the soul. That was not the only strange thing about the bronze lantern. Although it had been in the emperor's tomb for countless years, it was not tainted by the curse of the emperor's tomb at all. In fact, even the hell suppression tripod could not devour it. Right now, the bronze lantern had indeed done something extraordinary. Ah! Suddenly, the black-robed old man shrieked with a ruthless glint in his eyes. He extended his left hand and severed his right arm decisively. His right arm and walking stick fell at the same time. Although the black-robed old man lost an arm and suffered severe injuries, he was at least free from the threat of the bronze lantern. Su Zimo had been paying attention to the situation the entire time and could not help but feel shocked when he saw that. If the black-robed old man were to break free, he might be the one to die. At that moment it was already too late for him to pick up the bronze lantern. Suddenly, Su Zimo's eyes flickered as he noticed something unusual. There was a faint glow at the bottom of the bronze lantern. Unknowingly, a thin layer of oil had accumulated in the lantern. A thought flashed through Su Zimo's mind. Without hesitation, he channeled his extremely weak essence spirit and released a feeble spirit consciousness flame. Or rather, it could only be considered as a spark. However, that spark caused a change when it landed in the lantern. Phew! With a whoosh, a small flame ignited in the lantern and enveloped the black-robed old man with a golden glow. Ah! Before the black-robed old man could escape, he encountered such an unforeseen event and could not help but cry out tragically. The fear in his eyes had reached its limits as he shrieked repeatedly, "Soul Lantern! You actually ignited the soul lantern!" Ah! The golden flame of the bronze lantern did not burn the black-robed old man directly. However, when the golden light around the flame landed on the black-robed old man, golden flames were ignited from head to toe from the inside out and could not be extinguished. In the blink of an eye, the golden flames devoured the black-robed old man completely. The black-robed old man's tragic cries deteriorated rapidly as well. In just a few breaths, the black-robed old man had already vanished completely and his essence spirit was destroyed by the golden flames. Su Zimo looked at everything in a daze, dumbfounded. Earlier on, he merely released a spirit consciousness flame in a flash of inspiration. To think that it would create such a terrifying scene. Is this a soul lantern? Su Zimo murmured softly, "It's impressive indeed. Souls are completely helpless against the envelopment of this lantern." That power did not come from the soul lantern's flame. If the black-robed man, a powerful ghost immortal, was burned into ashes by the light released by the flame, how terrifying was the power of the actual flame. Chapter 2011, Purification. Chapter 2011, Purification. Naturally, Su Zimo knew that the reason why the tiny golden flame was so terrifying was not because of the essence spirit fire he released. Or rather, that wasn't even any essence spirit fire. At best, it was an essence spirit spark and was almost useless. However, because his spark ignited the thin layer of oil in the lantern, it released the power of the soul lantern. However, where did the oil come from? When he first obtained the soul lantern, he could clearly see that there was only the word soul in the lantern without any oil. Furthermore, even if there was lantern oil, it would have dried up after countless years. Su Zimo stared at the soul lantern and fell into deep thought. A moment later, a thought flashed through his mind. Soul. Although the black-robed old man severed his arm in time, much of his soul was still absorbed by the soul lantern. There was a high chance that it became the lantern oil in the soul lantern. This was an ancient bronze lantern that could only burn with lantern oil condensed from souls. That should be the origin of the name Soul Lantern. That was not the only thing that shocked Su Zimo. The flame of the soul lantern burned the black-robed old man's soul. However, familiar faces appeared in the surrounding void. Those faces were no longer menacing or terrifying. They transformed into human forms and bowed deeply in the direction of the soul lantern before looking at Su Zimo gratefully and bowing as well. Thereafter, the faces vanished completely. Su Zimo looked at everything in a daze and was enlightened. A moment later, he gradually understood. Over the years, the black-robed old man had devoured countless souls to cultivate to this point. Those souls were controlled by the black-robed old man and could not enter reincarnation. But now that the black-robed old man was burned to death by the soul lantern, it was equivalent to purifying the souls and allowing some of them to be freed and be reborn. That was the reason why those souls bowed to the soul lantern and expressed their gratitude to him. At that moment, the soul lantern was still burning. Although the golden flame was extremely small, it seemed like it would never extinguish and was filled with a golden glow. Actually, Su Zimo was also standing in the light of the soul lantern's flame. However, the power of the soul lantern did not cause any damage to his essence spirit. Su Zimo could not confirm the reason either. It might be because his spirit consciousness flame had ignited the soul lantern. That was why the light of the flame did not hurt him. A dharmic treasure like this soul lantern must have long gained sentience if even the hell suppression tripod could not devour it. It was also possible that the soul lantern had sensed the aura of the Prajna Nirvana Sutra from him previously and did not hurt him. However, Su Zimo was certain that he had yet to fully control this soul lantern. Perhaps his cultivation realm was not high enough or his essence spirit was not condensed enough. In any case, when he tried to touch the soul lantern, he could still sense a strong warning of danger. Of course, Su Zimo was in no hurry. He still had much time and opportunities in the future to slowly explore the secret of this soul lantern. If he still failed after he became an earth immortal, he would try again when he was a heaven immortal. One day, he would be able to control this soul lantern completely. Up till now, the soul lantern could not be considered as a trump card and was not of much help to him. That was because he could not control the soul lantern and could only roll it up with his robes. It was too easy for others to resolve it. Any immortal art, divine power or dharmic treasure of the other party could knock down the soul lantern. The reason why the black-robed old man was killed by the soul lantern was mainly because it caught him off guard. Furthermore, the black-robed old man was a ghost immortal and was completely formed from souls. Even the walking stick in his hands was transformed from souls. For the black-robed man, the soul lantern was practically his natural enemy. Right then, Su Zimo suddenly realized something. He could not sense the power of the curse of the Emperor's tomb while standing under the envelopment of the soul lantern flame's light. It was as though a vacuum-forbidden ground had been formed within the radius of the soul lantern flame's light and even the curse of the Emperor's tomb could not penetrate it. Pust. Su Zimo was secretly alarmed. That was a little impressive. The reason why this curse was terrifying was because even immortal emperors were not spared and died to it. Furthermore, there were 2 Emperor realm experts. But now, the flame of the soul lantern could actually repel the curse of the Emperor's tomb. What was the origin of the soul lantern? Strange. Suddenly, Su Zimo recalled something. According to the immortal emperor, he should have obtained this soul lantern long ago. If so, how did the immortal emperor die from the curse? Right then, Su Zimo suddenly felt dizzy. His body swayed slightly and he almost fell to the ground. Earlier on, he was struck by one of the black-robed old man's ghost faces and his back was mangled with his organs shaken. That was nothing. Given the regeneration capabilities of the Green Lotus true body, he would recover before long. It was mainly the power of the curse that seeped into his flesh. Earlier on, Su Zimo was tense and suppressed the curse of the Emperor's tomb temporarily. Now that he was slightly relaxed, the power of the curse burst forth completely and began to corrode continuously, seeping into his organs and even his marrow. Su Zimo finally understood why the immortal emperor died under the curse. Although the flame of the soul lantern could block the curse of the Emperor's tomb, it could not purge the curse in his body. Su Zimo felt weak all over and could not even support his body as he knelt on the ground. If anyone else was around, they would be able to clearly see that green spots had already grown on Su Zimo's face and skin in a terrifying manner. The curse of the Emperor's tomb exploded completely in his body, destroying his life force. Green spots appeared on Su Zimo's bones. Right now, the reason why he could hold on and maintain his clarity was because the Green Lotus true body had a powerful bloodline and was constantly regenerating blood to fight against the power of the curse of the Emperor's tomb. However, everything would be over if the power of the curse seeped into his marrow. At that time, his marrow would be tainted by the curse of the Emperor's tomb and the bloodline created would carry the power of the curse. Su Zimo would be completely devoured by the curse of the Emperor's tomb and die. Su Zimo realized the danger he was in but was helpless. Although he still had half a 7-glow immortal ginseng, it was useless. The 7-glow immortal ginseng could revive the dead and regrow flesh. No matter how serious the injuries were, one could be healed. However, it was useless against curses. Initially, he could have purged the curse of the Emperor's tomb with the bloodline of the Green Lotus true body. But now, Su Zimo's blood qi was weak from the consecutive battles and his stamina was depleted. Coupled with the fact that he was severely injured by the ghost immortal, the curse of the Emperor's tomb seeped into his flesh, organs, and limbs. Even with the bloodline of the Green Lotus true body, he could not defend against it. Su Zimo's body trembled slightly and the green spots on his face intensified in a terrifying manner. His life force drained continuously without stopping. Even in his consciousness, the creation lotus platform gradually stopped spinning. Su Zimo had already used up all his trump cards in this series of battles and there were no methods that could help him tide through this calamity. The curse of the Emperor's tomb was still corroding his organs and marrow wildly. Su Zimo's limbs were already tainted by the curse of the Emperor's tomb. However, for some unknown reason, the curse of the Emperor's tomb could not seep into his marrow still. It was as though there was a strange power in his marrow that was blocking the curse of the Emperor's tomb. Su Zimo's head was spinning and his consciousness was blurring. He could no longer sense the changes. Chapter 2012, Thunder Bones Strengthening. Chapter 2012, Thunder Bones Strengthening. Suddenly, a deafening sound of instant thunder sounded in Su Zimo's mind, waking him up from his stupor. A strange change was happening within the Green Lotus true body. A blinding light burst forth from his marrow. Accompanied by thunder, bedazzling electric arcs appeared from his marrow and coiled around his jade-green bones. As time passed by, the thunder became louder and more terrifying as the power of thunder released from the Green Lotus true body increased. Before long, the Green Lotus true body's body was filled with lightning. The lightning was so strong that even the curse of the Emperor's tomb could not defend against it. This is... Su Zimo was completely awake with a shocked expression. How could there be such a pure and terrifying power of thunder in his body? Suddenly, Su Zimo thought of something. Back in the 10 Absolute Hell, the first thing the Thunder Emperor did after breaking free from the shackles was to send the shattered Tao fruit into his body and seal it. The Thunder Emperor had once told him that given his current cultivation, it was difficult for him to absorb and refine the Tao fruit fragments completely at the moment. However, they might be able to help him in the future. And now, the continuous stimulation of the curse of the Emperor's tomb caused the sealed power of thunder to explode completely. The curse of the Emperor's tomb was related to one's cultivation realm. Su Zimo was only a grade 9 black immortal and the power of the curse he was tainted with was not strong. However, the power of thunder sealed in his body was incomparably terrifying. It was conjured by the Thunder Emperor's shattered Tao fruit. This was the Tao fruit of the Supreme Perfected Immortal. Even though it was already shattered, it possessed an unimaginable might. The curse of the Emperor's tomb that Su Zimo was tainted with could not defend against the baptism of the power of thunder at all and was forced to retreat in defeat. If not for the Soul Lantern's flame, the curse of the Emperor's tomb outside would definitely produce an even more terrifying curse power to fight against the lightning. Eventually, Su Zimo would be tainted by the even more terrifying curse of the Emperor's tomb and would definitely die. But now that the Soul Lantern was burning and the light of the golden flame isolated the curse of the Emperor's tomb outside, the curse in Su Zimo's body was purged by the surging lightning before long. The green spots on Su Zimo's face faded and his bones regained their jade green color. They were crystal clear and his bloodline was pure and flawless. Green mist seeped out of his pores continuously. The green mist was conjured by the curse of the Emperor's tomb and left the Green Lotus true body. Not long after it was enveloped by the flame of the Soul Lantern, it gradually disappeared and was refined by the Soul Lantern. Su Zimo stood up and lightning surged in his body, baptizing his body, bloodline, limbs, organs and cleansing the curse of the Emperor's tomb. The danger of the curse of the Emperor's tomb was completely resolved. However, the power of thunder released by the Tao fruit fragments was way too turbulent. If they were not guided for refinement, even the green lotus true body would be destroyed. However, this was no longer a crisis for Su Zimo. If he could refine and guide the power of thunder, he would definitely break through to the earth essence realm. Even his green lotus true body might be able to break through once more and grow to grade 10. Under normal circumstances, breaking through in the Emperor's tomb was equivalent to courting death. That was because once one broke through to the earth essence realm, the power of the curse of the Emperor's tomb would increase as well. There was a high chance that a grade 9 black immortal would survive after leaving the Emperor's tomb. If he broke through to become a grade 1 earth immortal, he would be doomed. But now, Su Zimo was cultivating with ease and even chose to break through. Within the range of the soul lantern's flame, it was not corroded by the curse and was equivalent to a paradise in the Emperor's tomb. Even if he broke through to the earth immortal realm here, he would not be tainted by the curse of the Emperor's tomb. The danger was resolved and the situation had turned around completely. This crisis was already a rare opportunity for Su Zimo. Ah! Su Zimo reared his head and howled into the skies with an endless might of thunder. The lightning in his body could no longer be suppressed and was about to spill out. Without hesitation, Su Zimo assumed a lotus position and recited the Void Thunder Manual silently. Many insights imparted by the Thunder Emperor flashed through his mind. Only the Void Thunder Manual could control, absorb and refine the power of thunder. In the Void Thunder Manual of the upper world, in order to refine his body and bloodline, the Thunder Emperor created a thunder bone strengthening secret skill to derive the thunder bloodline. And now, Su Zimo's mind was completely immersed in the bone strengthening secret skill. Lightning surged around Su Zimo and almost transformed into a sea of lightning. It was blinding and Su Zimo's figure became blurry and indistinct. However, as time passed by, Su Zimo's understanding of the thunder bone strengthening secret skill deepened and he could refine and absorb more power of thunder. The range of the sea of lightning gradually shrank. 1 day, 2 days, 1 month. Su Zimo had been sitting in a lotus position in the sea of lightning the entire time. His eyes were closed and he did not move, as though the world had stopped. The soul lantern flame at the side flickered from time to time and the oil in the lantern was also being consumed slowly. Time flew. In the blink of an eye, almost a year had passed since Su Zimo and the others entered the Emperor's tomb. Above a desert, a purple figure advanced alone. Although she was expressionless, she looked around from time to time, as though she was searching for something. Tang Zi. Her injuries had long healed. In the past half a year, she had been to many places, searching for Su Zimo. However, the Emperor's tomb was like a broken world that was way too huge and boundless. Back then, Su Zimo and the black-robed old man were too fast and she did not know where they ran to. Trying to find someone in the Emperor's tomb was equivalent to searching for a needle in a haystack. Sigh. Tang Zi lowered her head slightly and sighed. Actually, she had already vaguely guessed that Su Zimo was most likely doomed. There was almost no chance of escape after being targeted by a ghost immortal in the Emperor's tomb. Furthermore, Su Zimo was at the end of his road after consecutive battles. How could he escape the pursuit of the ghost immortal? She had not known Su Zimo for long. However, for some unknown reason, she felt sad at the thought that Su Zimo would be buried in the Emperor's tomb without a corpse left. I owe you too much, but I'll probably never get the chance to repay you. Tang Zi murmured softly. Right then, the entire Emperor's tomb suddenly shook. A series of explosions sounded from the firmaments, as though the skies were about to collapse. It's time to leave. Tang Zi glanced at the firmaments and chanted internally, as though she was bidding farewell to Su Zimo. The Emperor's tomb would not stay in a place for too long. If she was not wrong, this commotion should be a premonition that the Emperor's tomb was about to escape into the void and leave Divine Firmament mainland. Although she had a teleportation talisman that could return to the prince's residence, if the Emperor's tomb escaped into the endless void, even if she had a teleportation talisman, she would not be able to break through the restrictions of that space and would stay in the Emperor's tomb forever. She wanted to leave. She had something more important to do. Chapter 2013, Trinity Auspicious Jade. Chapter 2013, Trinity Auspicious Jade. On the other side of the Emperor's tomb. The sea of lightning around Su Zimo had already been absorbed by the Green Lotus true body, and there was an extremely terrifying power in his body that could spew out at any moment. At that moment, lightning coiled around every single jade green bone in Su Zimo's body and electric arcs circulated in his marrow. Even his new bloodline contained a wisp of the might of thunder. He had attained greater mastery of the Thunder Bone's strengthening section. This was something that the Thunder Emperor had painstakingly comprehended with his lifetime's learnings. Under normal circumstances, it was extremely difficult to cultivate. Even with Su Zimo's endowment, it was impossible for him to cultivate this secret skill to greater mastery without hundreds or thousands of years. There were two main reasons why he was able to attain greater mastery of this secret skill within a year. First, the Thunder Emperor imparted his cultivation technique without holding back. The second was the Tao fruit fragments sealed in Su Zimo's body by the Thunder Emperor. Although they were only fragments and there was not much power left after hundreds of thousands of years, there were still many comprehensions and insights left behind by the Thunder Emperor. By refining the Tao fruit fragments, Su Zimo had inherited the Thunder Emperor's cultivation insights completely and did not even need to comprehend them again. It was as though he was enlightened and comprehended everything instantly. Initially, it was only the Green Lotus true body. Su Zimo's physique and power of bloodline were almost invincible among his peers. Now that the Thunder Bones were mastered, the physique and power of bloodline of the Green Lotus true body increased exponentially as well. Su Zimo believed that if he were to face Yunting again, he could suppress the latter even without using his bloodline. Of course, that was only an ideal situation. After all, Yunting's cultivation would not stagnate either. Yunting had suffered a huge loss this time round. As long as his Tao heart was not affected, his cultivation would definitely advance. Everything else aside, if Yunting could control his bloodline phenomenon, it would be enough to cause him immense trouble. At that time, if the two of them met again, it was unknown who would win. Su Zimo's gains after cultivating for more than half a year were not limited to this. When he refined the Thunder Tao fruit, he mastered the Zephyr Thunder Wings as well. This meant that his movement technique could increase by another level and even ordinary Earth immortals would have difficulty catching up to him. On the other side, after this period of time, the refinement of the Hell Suppression Tripod was almost over. The third tripod wall was about to be repaired. The pattern that appeared was the sacred beast, the black tortoise. Those gains and improvements were not enough. Su Zimo did not stop cultivating. He wanted to break through to the Earth Essence realm in one go. In Su Zimo's consciousness, the phantoms of Buddhas appeared and the voice of the Prajna Nirvana Sutra chanted continuously as the creation lotus platform spun rapidly. In his consciousness, a golden Buddhist light and green light shone together like a pure land of the immortal kingdoms. An essence spirit sat on the pure land. Su Zimo's bloodline circulated and the sound of a tsunami could be heard. The sound of the tsunami was extremely shocking and contained the sound of thunder. It was majestic and deafening. Everything was ready except for an opportunity. Suddenly, on the other side, the Hell Suppression Tripod trembled slightly and an ancient life force emanated from the third tripod wall. The black tortoise sacred soul above suddenly opened its eyes and released a divine light that entered Su Zimo's consciousness. That divine light was the opportunity. Like a stone that caused 1,000 layers of waves, the divine light entered his consciousness, causing the golden light of Buddhism and the green lotus glow to shine brightly and interweave continuously. Ah! Su Zimo reared his head and howled into the skies. The heaven and earth essence chi in his body surged continuously and rose rapidly to its limits. Thereafter, as though he had broken free from some shackles, his body felt lighter. He could clearly sense that his lifespan had doubled to 200,000 years. The green lotus true body could accumulate even richer heaven and earth essence chi. With a single deep breath, essence chi surged into his body. He had broken through earth essence realm. The transformation was not over yet. In his consciousness, the creation lotus platform changed as well. All the lotus petals fell off and regrow, forming a gigantic white flower bud. After the green lotus true body obtained the 7 glow immortal ginseng, thunder Tao fruit and other supreme utmost treasures, he underwent a transformation as well. The thunder bones and green lotus bloodline. Grade 10. Grade 10 green lotus true body. Su Zimo felt that every single move he made seemed to possess endless power that could shake the world. Right then, in his consciousness, the flower bud on the lotus platform began to blossom and circles of lotus petals bloomed one after another. After the 9th circle, another circle of lotus petals appeared. The number of lotus holes on the lotus platform increased to 90 as well. The creation lotus platform had already advanced to grade 10. At that moment, the lotus flower bloomed and a green lotus essence spirit sat on the lotus platform. Flawless, the green lotus essence spirit was incomparably condensed. Its cultivation realm had already reached the terrifying level 3 earth essence realm. The green lotus essence spirit was surrounded by 90 green lotus seeds that transformed into rays of Tao light. It was filled with a faint fragrance and was like a god that had descended upon the world. The strangest thing was that the green lotus essence spirit was holding a jade green weapon. Su Zimo had never seen this jade weapon before. It was as though after his breakthrough, the jade weapon was born alongside the newborn lotus platform and appeared on the lotus platform at the same time as the green lotus essence spirit. I got it. A thought flashed through Su Zimo's mind. Back when his green lotus true body broke through to grade 9, a similar situation happened and the 9 heavens living soil was born. Now that the green lotus true body had grown to grade 10, another unique treasure was born. Su Zimo was delighted. Ever since the 9 heavens living soil appeared, it was extremely powerful and mysterious. Its defense was unparalleled and unpredictable, born from chaos. More importantly, the 9 heavens living soil was a part of the creation green lotus to begin with. As his cultivation realm increased, the might of the 9 heavens living soil would increase as well. Now that another jade weapon was born, it was definitely not weaker than the 9 heavens living soil. Right then, a piece of information flashed through Su Zimo's mind, similar to the inheritance memories of the creation green lotus. However, the information was incomplete and merely gave a rough introduction of the origin of the jade weapon. Trinity Auspicious Jade. Su Zimo murmured softly and focused his gaze. The head of the auspicious jade one was in the shape of an auspicious cloud with 3 dim beads. According to the inheritance memories of the creation green lotus, the 3 beads had a powerful background as well. They were condensed from the essence of the sun, moon, and stars in the chaos and corresponded to heaven, earth, and man. They were blessed by the heavens and were born together with the Tao. That was also the origin of the Trinity term. On the handle of the auspicious jade, there were 9 5-clawed golden dragons of different forms with towering horns. The 9 golden dragons possessed their own divine charms and were lifelike, as though they were traveling through auspicious clouds. The scales, whiskers, and claws on their bodies were clearly visible. Faint golden lights shone on the dragons' bodies as they reared their heads, wanting to soar through the clouds and overturn rivers and oceans. The dragon whiskers fluttered, the eyes were open in an enraged manner, and the scales and claws were sharp. Their massive dragon bodies stirred the wind and clouds and shook the world. This small jade weapon revealed an unstoppable and domineering aura. The end of the auspicious jade was in the shape of a lingji with strange patterns drawn on it. Its momentum was fluid as water and contained endless mysteries that were difficult to read. Chapter 2014, Exposed. Chapter 2014, Exposed. The Emperor's Tomb. Tang Zi looked at the deserted desert and lowered her head slightly. Even though she had already made up her mind to leave this place, she was still hesitant and disappointed. After a long silence, Tang Zi pursed her lips and finally took out the teleportation talisman from her storage bag. She rubbed it gently and tore it apart. The talisman shattered and released a tremendous amount of energy, tearing the void in front of her. The crack engulfed Tang Zi instantly and closed slowly. After a moment of dizziness, Tang Zi suddenly felt her body lighten, as though she was flung out of the spatial tunnel. She controlled her body hurriedly and maintained her balance before landing on the ground. Without looking, Tang Zi knew that she had already returned to Prince Yuan's residence and was in the hall they left from previously. However, 100 of them left this place a year ago. But now, she was the only one who had returned. The hall was silent and seemed empty. Suddenly, Tang Zi felt a strong gaze coming from the front of the hall. It was searing and was staring at her fixedly. She was all too familiar with that brazen gaze. There was only a single person in the residence of the prince. Prince Yuanzhua. You're back. Prince Yuanzhua's voice sounded faintly without any emotions. Tang Zi had a calm expression and was unmoved. She raised her head and looked over before bowing slightly. Greetings, Your Highness. Rise, there's no need for formalities. Prince Yuanzhua nodded slightly. Although Prince Yuanzhua was looking forward to it, he was trying his best to contain himself. He looked at Tang Zi with a burning gaze and took a deep breath before saying slowly, I've been waiting here for the past year without leaving the entire time. I hope you can bring me good news. The fact that Prince Yuanzhua waited here for a year for the Jade Talisman was proof of how important it was. Unfortunately, Tang Zi could not help but think of Su Zimo again. However, she composed herself very quickly and said with cupped fists, Sorry to disappoint you, Your Highness. We found the Jade Talisman but could not bring it back. When he heard that, Prince Yuanzhua felt incomparably disappointed and his expression darkened. Tang Zi said, The others died in the Emperor's tomb in order to fight for the Jade Talisman. I already know about that. Prince Yuanzhua said indifferently, I have the hunting ranking in my hands with your spirit consciousness imprints on it. If you guys die, I'll know right away. Tang Zi was silent. Prince Yuanzhua pondered for a moment and asked, Earlier on, you said that you found the Jade Talisman in the Emperor's tomb. Tell me about the process. Tang Zi did not hide anything and roughly described everything that happened after entering the Emperor's tomb. Her narration was filled with half-truths. For example, she lied about how the 2 old servants died. She did not hide anything that was unimportant and even recounted everything in detail. In fact, she did not hide the fact that she fought against the 4 paragons and Su Zimo fought against Yunting in the hall at the end. In the end, Su Zimo obtained the Jade Talisman. However, the commotion here attracted a ghost immortal. Tang Zi said, Su Zimo abandoned me and escaped alone. Right now, he should have been killed by the ghost immortal. I searched for more than half a year but could not find his corpse. I don't know where the Jade Talisman is either. To Tang Zi, Su Zimo was already dead. Even if she described this matter truthfully, it would not affect anything. Instead, it would be easier to convince Prince Yuanzhua and gain his trust. What did you say? When Prince Yuanzhua heard the news, he was delighted. He slammed the table and stood up, asking again, You mean to say that Su Zimo obtained the Jade Talisman? Tang Zi felt that something was amiss. However, she could not change her words at that moment and could only grit her teeth. Yes. However, he's definitely dead after being hunted down by the ghost immortal. Ha 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 ha. Prince Yuanzhua burst into laughter with ecstasy in his eyes. The heavens are truly on my side. Su Zimo isn't dead at all. Once he returns, the Jade Talisman will be mine. He's not dead? Tang Zi was stunned and in disbelief. Prince Yuanzhua burst into laughter. The fact that Su Zimo's spirit consciousness imprint is not extinguished on the hunting ranking means that he's not dead yet. When she heard that, Tang Zi's eyes lit up and her heart surged with endless joy. Immediately, she was worried again. If Su Zimo was not dead, he should be returning soon. When he returned, Prince Yuanzhuo would definitely ask him for the jade talisman. She had not known Su Zimo for long, but she already understood his personality. In order to procure the jade talisman, Su Zimo fought against Yunting with all his methods and escaped death after being hunted down by the ghost immortal. He was probably not going to give it up obediently. If Su Zimo were to resist, Prince Yuanzhuo would definitely kill him. At that thought, Tang Zi's heart was filled with killing intent. Initially, she wanted to continue hiding beside Prince Yuanzhuo and wait for an excellent opportunity to attack. But now, if Su Zimo were to appear, there was a high chance that he would get himself killed. At that time, she would be forced to attack as well, and the situation would be even more chaotic and terrible. However, what were her chances if she attacked now? None of the maidservants who were initially with Prince Yuanzhuo were in the hall today. This seemed to be a rather good opportunity. Although Tang Zi was expressionless, her heart stirred. "Aren't you going to attack?" Right then, a mocking voice sounded, "Feng Zi, what are you waiting for?" Tang Zi was shocked and almost could not help but exclaim. After all, she had cultivated the Tao of assassination all year round and was resolute. She calmed down rapidly and raised her head to look at Prince Yuanzhuo, asking, "Are you talking to me, Your Highness?" "Of course." Prince Yuanzhuo sat in the hall and looked at Tang Zi with a fake smile. "There's only the two of us here. I didn't hear you clearly earlier on, Your Highness." Tang Zi's expression was unchanged as she said, "In addition, you seem to have called me by the wrong name, Your Highness." "Fufu, I wasn't wrong." Prince Yuanzhuo chuckled and said, "How can I address the dignified supreme perfected immortal, Feng Xantian's biological granddaughter, wrongly? You're not someone who ascended from the lower worlds at all. Your surname is Feng, not Tang." Feng Zi was silent and there were still no emotions in her eyes. "When did you discover it?" Feng Zi knew very well that even if she continued pretending, she would only be a laughing stock. It was useless and she no longer hid anything. "Initially, I did not notice you at all." Prince Yuanzhuo smiled gently and said, "However, I saw the scene of you entering the 10 absolute hell. Of course, at that time, I did not take you to heart either. I merely thought that you were a survivor of Remnant Night and was of no threat until Feng Xantian escaped." Chapter 2015, Bird in a Cage. Chapter 2015, Bird in a Cage. At the mention of Feng Xantian, there was still a hint of fear in Prince Yuanzhuo's eyes even after a year. However, that hint of fear disappeared before long. Right now, King Tianqing was not the only one in pursuit of Feng Xantian. His elder brother, the heir of King Jin, had already laid an impenetrable trap and was prepared to kill Feng Xantian personally. Feng Xantian was severely injured and had no way of escaping the great Jin immortal kingdom. Once his tracks were exposed, he would definitely die. He was no longer a threat. He didn't escape. Feng Zi was expressionless as she said coldly, "He broke free from the 10 absolute hell and killed 10 perfected immortals. He crushed absolute Thunder City and left openly." "Fufu." Prince Yuanzhuo smiled and shrugged his shoulders, saying indifferently, "It doesn't matter. The outcome will be the same. Right, you might not know it yet, but my older brother, King Ungshi I, came out of seclusion because of this and even tracked down Feng Xantian and injured him. Although Feng Xantian escaped again, he won't be able to hold out for long." At the mention of King Ungshi, Feng Zi shuddered and her eyes were filled with endless resentment. Even with her temperament, she could not control her emotions when she heard that name. She lost her cool and said word by word, "The heir of King Jin." Feng Zi grit her teeth, as though she wanted to tear the heir of King Jin apart. "Oh." Prince Yuanzhuo slapped his forehead and said in realization, "Look at my memory. I actually forgot that my brother once killed your parents personally. I'm truly sorry." Prince Yuanzhuo apologized on the surface, but his eyes were filled with mockery. The more Feng Zi lost her composure, the more he felt accomplished. "Sigh, it's not my brother's fault. Prince Yuanzhua shook his head gently, as though he felt pity, and sighed. It would have been fine if you sinners had known your place after Feng Cantian was suppressed. Why did you have to set up an assassination group called Remnant Knight to specifically assassinate people of the royal family? Aren't you just courting death? Feng Zi clenched her fists and tried her best to suppress the anger in her heart. She knew that Prince Yuanzhua was deliberately angering her. Feng Zi's fingernails had already pierced her palm and blood flowed out, but she was not afraid at all. Prince Yuanzhua continued, "Don't be angry. Back then, my brother was only at the perfected immortal realm and was of the same cultivation realm as your father. It was a fair battle between them and your father died because he was weak. It's nothing much." "Nonsense!" Feng Zi shouted, "Back then, my mother was captured by a trap set by you guys. The heir of King Jin used my mother to force my father to appear and fight him. So what? At the very least, that battle was watched by everyone and my brother won fair and square. If he wanted to kill your father, given his status as the heir, there's no need for him to do it personally." Prince Yuanzhua sneered. "Fair and square. Fair and square." Feng Zi seemed to have thought of something and her eyes were bloodshot as she glared at Prince Yuanzhua fiercely. She was so furious that her entire body was trembling. If Su Zimo saw this, he would definitely be shocked. In his opinion, Feng Zi would definitely not reveal such emotions even if something major happened. Suddenly, Feng Zi closed her eyes and no longer looked at Prince Yuanzhua. A moment later, she gradually calmed down. When she opened her eyes again, there were no longer any emotions and her expression was calm. A look of regret flashed through Prince Yuanzhua's eyes. Initially, he thought that Feng Zi could no longer control herself and was about to attack him. To think that Feng Zi would regain her composure with her strong willpower. Prince Yuanzhua was in no hurry and continued, "Furthermore, I didn't notice you at first. However, because Feng Cantian escaped, I realized that someone must have helped him. I know the layout of the 10 Absolute Hell the best. Without external help, there's no way Feng Cantian can break free. I had my men check on your identity again immediately. Yes, no matter how realistic your disguise is, as long as we check carefully, there will always be flaws." Feng Zi understood. Prince Yuanzhua thought that she was the one who assisted Feng Cantian in breaking free from the 10 Absolute Hell. However, in reality, she did have the plan but it failed. Even up till now, she was at a loss and did not know how Feng Cantian escaped or what happened in the 10 Absolute Hell. Of course, since Prince Yuanzhua recognized the wrong person, she would not explain either. Prince Yuanzhua smiled. "You've already hidden yourself very well and carefully. Unfortunately, I still saw through you. Tisk. Actually, it was a coincidence that Feng Zi's identity was exposed. If Feng Cantian had not escaped, she would not have attracted Prince Yuanzhua's attention. Since you discovered my identity long ago, why didn't you kill me?" Feng Zi asked. Prince Yuanzhua smiled gently. "I could use you to enter the Emperor's tomb by retaining you. Why should I be in a hurry to kill you? You're a bird in a cage that will never be able to escape my grasp." Feng Zi was silent. She had to admit that she had underestimated Prince Yuanzhua. This person had long seen through her identity but did not reveal any flaws or alert her. On the surface, this person looked like he was indulging in pleasures and wine. However, he was extremely scheming and controlled everything without batting an eyelid. The fact that this person was not scared out of his wits when Feng Cantian wreaked havoc in Absolute Thunder City and escaped was proof of his guts. King Jin had many descendants, but not every one of them could be conferred a county to rule over. Most of them merely had titles. From that, it could be seen that Prince Yuanzhua was extraordinary. Feng Zi could not be blamed either. Although Prince Yuanzhua was at the Earth Essence realm, he was truly not outstanding among the many princes. Furthermore, Prince Yuanzhua had a notorious reputation as a prodigal son. Naturally, Feng Zi looked down on him. After chatting with you for so long, the curse of the Emperor's tomb in your body should be mostly purged, right? Prince Yuanzhou looked at Feng Zi with a fake smile, as though he knew her thoughts and actions like the back of his hand. In reality, that was the case as well. The reason why Feng Zi questioned Prince Yuanzhou for so long was to buy time. She was only at the Black Essence realm and the curse she was tainted with did not pose much of a threat. She circulated the Void Thunder Manual and the power of thunder was born from her thunder bones, purging the curse of the Emperor's tomb from her body before long. Of course, her motive for stalling for time was not only to resolve the hidden ailment of the curse. She wanted to break through to the Earth Essence realm in one go. Feng Zi could have broken through to the Earth Essence realm a long time ago. It was only because she wanted to enter the 10 Absolute Hell and meet Feng Cantian that she suppressed her cultivation realm the entire time. Later on, Feng Cantian broke free and entered the Emperor's tomb. With those series of events, she had no chance to break through at all. If she broke through after being cursed in the Emperor's tomb, it would be equivalent to courting death. Now that she had returned to the prince's residence and purged the curse of the Emperor's tomb, all the obstacles on Feng Zi were clear. The essence qi in her body surged towards the barrier of the Earth Essence realm. Chapter 2016, Mayfly Shaking a Tree. Chapter 2016, Mayfly Shaking a Tree. Boom! A loud bang seemed to have sounded from Feng Zi's body. The barrier shattered. Feng Zi took a deep breath of air and an endless stream of heaven and earth essence qi surged into her body, washing through her flesh, tendons, bones and organs as her strength increased rapidly. Lightning coiled around her body and her aura rose continuously. Wow! Prince Yuanzhou pretended to be surprised and clapped with a smile, praising, "You've broken through. Not bad." He allowed Feng Zi to break through right in front of him as though he had no intention of attacking. On the contrary, he had a smile the entire time and looked at Feng Zi with a mocking expression. It was not because he was careless and underestimated his opponent. It was because even though Feng Zi had broken through to the Earth Essence realm, she could not do anything to him. If it was any other time, Prince Yuanzhou would not have entangled himself with Feng Zi and would have killed her long ago. Today, Prince Yuanzhou was overjoyed when he knew that Su Zimo had obtained the Jade Talisman and was about to return. It was a rare moment of interest and he wanted to play with Feng Zi. Time slowly passed. Breaking through such a major cultivation realm usually required a process of adaptation. When Feng Zi saw that Prince Yuanzhou did not attack, she did not act rashly. Instead, she continued to absorb heaven and earth essence qi and baptized her body and essence spirit to stabilize her cultivation realm. Suddenly, in a flash, Feng Zi charged towards Prince Yuanzhou at an astonishing speed and there was only a faint shadow in midair. Ha 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 ha. When Prince Yuanzhou saw Feng Zi attack, he stood up as well and raised his head in laughter. He was unmoved against Feng Zi's figure and did not even look at her. He merely channeled his spirit consciousness and iron walls suddenly descended around the hall. Feng Zi's figure collided with Prince Yuanzhou and dissipated without causing any ripples. That figure was merely an illusion and had long been seen through by Prince Yuanzhou. Feng Zi's true form had long hidden itself and fled towards the exit of the hall. As an assassin, she naturally had her own judgment of the situation. She knew very well that even though she had already broken through to the Earth Essence realm, she was definitely not a match for Prince Yuanzhou in a head-on fight. The reason why she broke through to the Earth Essence realm was because she wanted to increase her chances of escaping. "I haven't had my fill of fun yet. Why do you want to leave?" Prince Yuanzhou's mocking voice sounded. Immediately after, the iron walls fell and smashed onto the ground with a deafening bang. Clang! The sound of metal clashing could be heard. Feng Zi summoned her dark daggers and stabbed them heavily against the iron walls. However, a series of sparks flew and only left a faint white scar on them. With that collision, Feng Zi's concealment technique was dispelled as well and her figure appeared. Even though she had already advanced to the Earth Essence realm, she could not break through the defense of the hall. Furthermore, all her thoughts and actions seemed to be under Prince Yuanzuo's control. Prince Yuanzuo walked down slowly from his seat towards Feng Zi with a smile. Look, I specially asked the maidservants around me to leave so that I can create a rare opportunity for you to assassinate me. If you want to leave without even attacking me, aren't you letting down my goodwill? Prince Yuanzuo's smile was chilling and filled with incomparable confidence. Feng Zi glared at Prince Yuanzuo in silence. Prince Yuanzuo gradually retracted his smile and said slowly, "So what if you break through to the Earth Essence realm? So what if you're good at assassination? Today, I'll teach you a principle. In the face of absolute strength, no fancy tricks can withstand a single blow." The moment he said that, Prince Yuanzuo released the might of his spirit consciousness and suppressed Feng Zi like a tsunami. Feng Zi's expression changed and her body swayed, almost knocked down by Prince Yuanzuo's spirit consciousness pressure. The difference was too great. If her spirit consciousness was a pond, Prince Yuanzuo's spirit consciousness was like a lake. The distance between the two of them closed continuously. In the blink of an eye, Prince Yuanzuo had already arrived before Feng Zi. In fact, he was less than an arm's length away and was extremely close. Feng Zi was expressionless. However, she suddenly opened her mouth and let out an ear-piercing cry that sounded like an immortal wail. The heaven and earth essence chi around her rippled like water because of that voice. Sound Domain's secret skill, immortal wail sound. At the same time, Feng Zi released her blood chi with all her might and lightning surged in her body. Her aura rose to its limits and she broke free from the pressure of Prince Yuanzuo's spirit consciousness. She raised her hands and her sleeves fluttered. Two pitch-black beams of light flashed almost imperceptibly. The dark daggers were already in her hands. One stabbed towards Prince Yuanzuo's chest while the other stabbed towards his face. May! Prince Yuanzuo did not dodge or avoid. Suddenly, he opened his mouth and spat out a word. Feng Zi shuddered and felt her ears buzz. The voice in her mind reverberated endlessly. Fly! Feng Zi bit the tip of her tongue gently and the dark daggers in her hands continued to stab towards Prince Yuanzuo's vitals. Prince Yuanzuo spoke again and spat out a second word. With a bang, Feng Zi's mind went blank and she froze on the spot, as though she was struck by lightning. The dark daggers were less than an inch away from Prince Yuanzuo's chest and face. As long as she prodded gently, given the sharpness of the dark daggers, they would definitely be able to pierce Prince Yuanzuo's vitals. However, she was shocked and turned feeble from Prince Yuanzuo's words. Her blood chi had already dissipated. Shaking. Prince Yuanzuo spoke once more. A series of crackling sounds came from Feng Zi's body. Her bones were shattered by Prince Yuanzuo and she was in extreme pain. Her face was pale and her blood chi reversed, causing her to almost collapse to the ground. A tree. Prince Yuanzuo opened his mouth and said the final words. As though she was struck by an unimaginable force, Feng Zi's body was sent flying and smashed against the cold wall of the hall with a bang. After a brief pause, it slid down slowly. Feng Zi felt as though her tendons and bones were about to split and her organs shifted. Opening her mouth, she spat out a mouthful of blood with a dispirited expression. Mayfly shaking a tree. Although it sounded slow, Prince Yuanzuo said those words in the blink of an eye. Right from the beginning, he did not even move a single finger. He merely spat out words and severely injured Feng Zi with the terrifying power of his sound domain skill. Prince Yuanzuo came before Feng Zi and looked down at her, saying indifferently, "Even if you break through, you'll only be at the level 1 Earth Essence realm. I've already cultivated to the level 7 Earth Essence realm. That's a difference of 6 cultivation realms. What do you have to fight me with?" Chapter 2017, Return. Chapter 2017, Return. The Emperor's Tomb. Su Zimo had benefited way too much from this trip to the emperor's tomb. Apart from treasures such as the mysterious jade talisman, soul lantern and 7 glow immortal ginseng, his cultivation had also broken through a major cultivation realm and reached the level 1 earth essence realm. He had only ascended to the upper world for slightly more than 1,000 years. Even the personal disciples of some aristocratic families and sects could not match his cultivation speed, let alone the native living beings of the upper world. At the same time, the Hell Suppression Tripod repaired the 3rd tripod wall and the pattern of the sacred beast, the black tortoise, appeared on it. Su Zimo even obtained a secret skill passed down from the black tortoise's sacred soul. However, he had yet to divert his attention to cultivate. The green lotus true body advanced to grade 10 and gave birth to a treasure, the Trinity Auspicious Jade. He was even more curious about that treasure. At that moment, Su Zimo was studying the jade weapon while stabilizing his cultivation realm. For a moment, he forgot where he was. Although he had obtained some inheritance memories of the creation green lotus and knew that the jade weapon was called the Trinity Auspicious Jade, he had to figure out its use himself. Su Zimo's mind was completely immersed in the Trinity Auspicious Jade. He felt that the treasure was extremely mysterious, and the more he explored, the more he could sense the immense power behind it. After a long time, Su Zimo finally discovered one of the miraculous uses of the Trinity Auspicious Jade. He was secretly delighted when he felt a vibration and jolted awake from his cultivation. The emperor's tomb was shaking violently and the world spun. Countless starlight fell from the firmaments and the ground cracked, as though the apocalypse had arrived. Su Zimo realized that the emperor's tomb was about to leave divine firmament mainland and escape into the void. Without hesitation, he took out the teleportation talisman from his storage bag and tore it apart. A spatial tunnel appeared behind him and devoured him before disappearing from the emperor's tomb. Green Cloud City, Prince's residence. Feng Zi leaned against the wall weakly. She was severely injured by Prince Yuan's sound domain secret skill. Right now, her blood qi was dissipated and her tendons and bones felt like they were about to split. The pain was unbearable and she could not even stand up against the pressure of Prince Yuan's spirit consciousness, let alone complete the assassination. The difference in strength between them was way too great. If it was a secret assassination attempt, she might have a chance of winning. Now that her identity was exposed and she was forced to fight Prince Yuan's head-on, she had no chance at all. Given your intelligence, it shouldn't be difficult for you to tell Feng Santian's intentions, right? Prince Yuanzhua looked down at Feng Zi and said slowly, the reason why he broke free from the cage but did not take you away was because he was worried that he would implicate you if he was hunted down. Feng Zi remained silent. Actually, she had not seen Feng Cantian at all. To be precise, Feng Cantian did not even know that a granddaughter like her existed. Feng Cantian had been suppressed in Absolute Thunder City for hundreds of thousands of years and she was only a few thousand years old. The two of them had never met before. Feng Zi's closest kin were her parents and master. However, she had heard too many legends about Feng Cantian and the person she admired the most was this grandfather she had never met before. Feng Cantian had been suppressed for too long. Even if he was alive, he did not have much lifespan left. Feng Zi knew in her heart that if she did not head to Absolute Thunder City, she might not have the chance to see her grandfather personally in her lifetime. That was also the reason why she wanted to barge into the 10 Absolute Hell to meet Feng Cantian despite the immense danger. Indeed, Feng Cantian did not disappoint her for this trip to Absolute Thunder City. In fact, it was even more majestic and unparalleled than the image she had conjured in her mind. That prideful and invincible aura was something that no one in the world could match. Her grandfather was free. This was the only thing that could make Feng Zi happy in thousands of years. Although she was about to die, Feng Cantian survived. She had even witnessed her grandfather's peerless glory personally and had no regrets in her life. At that thought, Feng Zi laughed. She could no longer remember how long it had been since she smiled happily. Perhaps there had never been a smile on her face after her parents died. At that moment, her smile was a little amateurish but exceptionally beautiful. It was like a new touch of green in the early spring, like a blossoming plum blossom in the cold winter. You can still smile? Prince Yuanzhua shook his head gently and said, I'm curious. Feng Cantian has already escaped, but you didn't take advantage of the chaos to escape. Instead, you came to my side and wanted to assassinate me? Fufu, what exactly do you want? My brother was the one who killed your father and King Tianqing was the one who suppressed Feng Cantian. Why are you looking for me? The smile on Feng Zi's face gradually disappeared as she glared at Prince Yuanzhua coldly. That's because you deserve to die. I'm going to let King Jin and the heir of King Jin experience the pain of losing their kin as well. Feng Zi planned for a long time before deciding on Prince Yuanzhua as her choice of target. Firstly, Prince Yuanzhua was not old and could be considered as one of King Jin's youngest sons. Although his cultivation was not high, he was entrusted with a heavy responsibility by King Jin. It was clear that he had a high status in the latter's heart. Second, among the many princes, Prince Yuanzhua's cultivation realm was not high and the success rate of his assassination was higher. Hee. Prince Yuanzhua had a disdainful expression as he waved his hand gently. His robes expanded dozens of feet and wrapped around Feng Zi's neck a few times like a nimble python before tightening. Feng Zi's body was lifted slowly by the sleeves of the robes. Instantly, her face turned bloodshot and her lips turned purplish. Her neck was almost snapped by Prince Yuanzhua. Clang! Feng Zi's hands were weak and she could not even hold on to the dark daggers, allowing them to fall to the ground. As long as Prince Yuanzhua tightened his robes with a single thought, he would be able to kill her. Bitch, you're still too inexperienced to want to kill me. Prince Yuanzhua glared at Feng Zi and sneered, I'll kill you first today. In a few days, I'll get that old dog Feng Cantian to accompany you. At that time, your family can reunite in hell. It'll be lively, ha ha ha. Prince Yuanzhua burst into laughter. Just as he was about to kill Feng Zi, a strange energy fluctuation came from behind him. Prince Yuanzhua glanced sideways. The void not far away from the hall cracked slowly and a pitch-black spatial tunnel appeared with a sinister wind. When he saw that, Prince Yuanzhua's heart skipped a beat and he was delighted. Su Zimo. Su Zimo must have returned. Prince Yuanzhua stared at the spatial tunnel fixedly with an expectant expression. Indeed, before long, a figure fell out of the spatial tunnel and stabilized himself before landing steadily in the hall. The person had black hair and a slender figure. Dressed in green robes, he had refined features. It was Su Zimo. Good. Prince Yuanzhua looked at Su Zimo and was overjoyed as he praised repeatedly, Su Zimo, you did not disappoint me. You're tuning into the Biyao's Wuxia Chronicles YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.